Good morning. Good morning. I hope you can all hear me well.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for making it today. We're still waiting for some people to join in. It's a little bit over 9 o'clock UK time, 11 o'clock Lebanon time. All right. Okay. So welcome to the first edition of the Food and Beverage Industry. The webinar is organized by the Lebanese Embassy in London, UK, and it will speak in so many words about the opportunities between the two countries when it comes to the food and drinks, as they call it here. This is a first edition, and it will be followed by many other events along these lines. It will bring experts from the UK and Lebanon, and they will share their experiences in bridging the logistics gap between both countries. We will discuss best practices, and we will discuss the do's and don'ts. And at this stage, there will be some lessons learned that we will take away from the many sessions. I will leave the floor to His Excellency Rami Murtada, the Ambassador of Lebanon to the UK, and then we will move to the first session. Your Excellency.
Thank you, Ralph, for the introduction. I wish to welcome you all on this beautiful digital morning. It's also in London, a beautiful physical morning. I'm sure it's the same in Beirut. And I want to thank you for your interest in this event organized by the Embassy of Lebanon in London. This is, as Ralph just said, a first edition of what we hope a series of successive events featuring the food and beverage industry in Lebanon and its potential in the UK market. We were keen to allocate to the Lebanese F&B sector its due importance after two major physical events that we had organized in the last 2 years. The first one on infrastructure and the investment opportunities underlying the said process. That was, I think, in December 2018. And the other one in September 2019, featuring the IT sector in Lebanon and the potential for Lebanon becoming an outsourcing or offshoring destination for British companies. Both events were very well attended and were complemented by follow-up mechanisms, and they allowed us to detect an interest amongst British companies in the Lebanese market and possibilities for Lebanon positioning itself as a credible business destination for post-Brexit Britain. Since then, of course, the Lebanese economy has taken an unfortunate turn, which is still heavily lived in Lebanon. But this is in no way a reason why we shouldn't highlight opportunities in whatever form they may exist, particularly today where Lebanon has become more export competitive and where the F&B sector, particularly F&B sector, can be a pillar in this renewed push to enhance our export network and therefore create jobs and generate growth. However dire the current situation in Lebanon, I like to look at it as a parenthesis, a bracket of a temporary nature, which can and should incentivize the development of a new business model for the country with competitive and high quality exports like yours at its forefront. Having said this, I wish briefly to mention some flashpoints which can set the scene for today's event. First point, there is an interest in Britain in the Lebanese market, an interest that nevertheless remains underdone and waiting to be channeled towards the underlying opportunities. We have been tirelessly working jointly with our British friends to tailor a bilateral prosperity agenda which can complement the already existing excellent political, security, and humanitarian agenda. I'm confident that with Britain, we can look for a long-term partnership in business as much as in politics and in security. And wherever one stands on Brexit, it has become a reality. And there is no doubt that it will lead Britain to look for new business horizons and for markets which remained until today untapped or undertapped. The British government signaled its interest in the Lebanese market last year with the appointment of a Prime Minister's trade envoy, a British Prime Minister's trade envoy to Lebanon, Lord Richard Risby, who is a very good friend of Lebanon and who is committed to play his role along with other British departments in Beirut or London in tailoring this prosperity agenda we are all looking at materializing. My second point is about the certainty and predictability that both the Lebanese and the British government were keen to provide the private sectors in both countries with, against the backdrop, obviously, of Brexit. That's why Lebanon was amongst the first countries to sign a trade agreement with the UK to roll over the preferential trade advantages provided for Lebanon by the EU-Lebanon Association Agreement, a bilateral agreement with Britain for the post-Brexit era. Today, the EU-Lebanon Association Agreement still governs the trade relations between Lebanon and the UK, as Britain left the EU officially last January, but has jointly decided with the EU to maintain the status quo until the end of this year, when the Lebanon-EU Association Agreement will no more be applicable for Britain, and the new bilateral agreement will enter into force, hence ensuring continuity for existing trade relations between Lebanon and the UK. And at the same time, we were keen to open new avenues for future openness and trade, both in goods and maybe in due course in services. We're talking about two economies, the Lebanese and the British, which rely in more than 70, probably 75% on services. And therefore, we should be looking for these win-win schemes to capitalize on that similarity. Brexit is obviously transformative in Britain, and the regulatory framework, which is very relevant to the F&B sector, needs to be considered while conceiving a business export model. In the highly regulated world we live in, competitiveness of a product is not only about its good quality, but also about its ability to match regulations, whether related to packing, food safety, environment, quotas, logistics, transport, and others. The Lebanese food and beverage sector, and this is addressed to our British friends here, is not merely a business enterprise in Lebanon. It's furthermore an old legacy of excellence and joie de vivre, as they say in French, a culture of entertaining and hospitality. It vehicles all the old Lebanese traditions of good taste. We aim at feeding the eye before feeding the mouth, as we say in Arabic. Today, and particularly in these difficult circumstances, where Lebanon is called to reconcile with all its old habits of excellence, these products, your products, will always proudly carry the Made in Lebanon brand, and we owe it to our producers in Lebanon to finally establish a holistic, structured, and business-focused export strategy beyond hollow rhetoric, an all-encompassing multi-departmental strategy which is able to help producers meet the highly regulated market expectations and also educate the producers, particularly in agriculture, on the international market's needs and opportunities. We need to start tailoring our agricultural products according to our export markets' needs and potentials, rather than producing, then looking afterwards for a market. And here comes the role to be undertaken by the public sector in Lebanon in providing sound advice and projecting leadership in regulations and market surveys and building the Made in Lebanon brand. We have an extensive network of free trade agreements joining Lebanon to most regional and international markets. The upcoming UK-Lebanon trade agreement is an example. These agreements can definitely provide opportunities if well handled, but can also represent challenges if we remain at the receiving end. FTAs are only one ring in a long chain leading to a healthy and lucrative export business model. We shouldn't stop at one ring in the chain. At the same time, any remedy to the challenges of free trade should not preempt the underlying opportunities. And Lebanon has never been an isolationist country, but a committed believer in open, free, although fair trade. Safeguard mechanisms aiming at protecting vulnerable local producers come from within the FTA logic and should come in coordination with our partners who would definitely understand the injured balance of payment we currently have in Lebanon and the need to protect some industries before they become fully competitive at the global scale. We need to make our case in this regard. Finally, a word of my personal experience in Britain. I have never failed in luring a British official or any British friend, however high in the hierarchy, to lunch or to dinner, as long as the word Lebanese food or Lebanese wine is mentioned. It is, as I said, a very much appreciated footprint of Lebanese culture in the world. And at times where all nations need to rethink or reinvent their soft power, Lebanese food and beverage remain one of our most effective soft powers in Lebanon. They have the potential, and most of them already are, beyond the ethnic products limitation, as they became international products, although with the Lebanese core being made with love, affection, and a meticulous obsession for distinction. I wish to finally thank Mr. Ralph Nami, our economic attaché, and the whole embassy team who have worked tirelessly on this event, and mainly thank our partners, Berytech and QOOT, and all our speakers and panelists today, which will enlighten the discussions, and all the participants, and wish you a fruitful event, notwithstanding the awkwardness of discussing food and beverage on a digital platform. And I wish to invite you all not to hesitate in availing yourselves of the commercial services of this embassy. We have a dedicated team which operates under the motto, what's good for General Motors is good for America. And by America, I obviously mean Lebanon. And by General Motors, I mean you. Lebanese exporters interested in the UK market or British importers interested in the Lebanese market. Thank you for your attention and looking forward for the rest of the day.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the beautiful introduction on the very particular subject that everyone seems to be interested in, bilateral trades and food and beverage, especially when it comes to Lebanon. Without further ado, the webinar will be split in 4 sessions, and each session will have its own particularity when it comes to addressing the food and drinks industry. I will just lay it out simply for the many already attendees who are all interested in exploring this particular subject. The first session will be the dynamics of the food and beverage market here in the UK. We will speak about the Lebanese brands, their sustainability and challenges. Joining us in the first session will be Mr. Atif Idris, a very renowned food scientist who has basically exploited and worked hard on trade between Lebanon and international markets. He has also looked into in-depth the science behind the food and beverage industry and will be moderating the session. Mr. Walter Anzer, the General Director of the British Food Importers and Distributors here in the UK, will be joining us alongside Mr. James Murray, who is the International Sales Director of Montgomery Group, who handled the food and drinks hospitality, and also Mr. Paddy Willis, who is the CEO of Mission Ventures. Following that, we will move to another session. Each session will have an allocated or allotted time of half an hour. At the end of the session, 5 minutes will be allocated to the Q&As. And if you may please just type in your questions. We will try as best as possible to put the questions in order. And those questions which are not answered, we will share with you our email and you may address them and we will make sure to respond back to you duly. Thank you for your time and please stay tuned. This is a lengthy webinar, but we promise to be interesting and we hope that we will be able to serve everyone based on their interest. Mr. Atif Idris, I'll pass the floor to you.
Good morning, Ralph. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for this invitation. And it's my pleasure to moderate this session. I'm glad we're having this meeting as the head of the Association of Food Industries, and at the same time, the syndicate head of the food exporters. We are pleased to present and moderate this session. As MIFOSA, the Middle East Food Safety Association in this region, we support all the embassy's activities and we appreciate indeed what Mr. Ralph has been doing. Can I ask the first presenter to present himself and to start? And if Walter is ready, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everybody. Mr. Ambassador, he was quite right about Lebanese food. It's got a long tradition in the United Kingdom. And as he will know, in London, there are many, many Lebanese restaurants. My company, Anzer Consultancy, supplies services to trade associations and also to corporate clients. In this function, I'm the Director General of the British Food Importers Association, whose members are importers of ambient foods, mostly canned or otherwise preserved foods. I got a member who is the leading importer of olive oil and has got a very large market share in the United Kingdom. I got another trade association, which are the vinegar brewers, which are the people who manufacture or produce vinegar. And that could be of interest to some extent to the wine producers, because obviously wine is used in producing wine vinegar. Traditionally, the United Kingdom being an importing country, as far as food is concerned, there's numerous trade associations representing the food sector. The leading one is the Food and Drink Federation, which represents all the manufacturers. But there is a separate association, as far as your sector is concerned, for dried fruits and nuts. There is a separate association for fresh fruits and vegetables, which is the Fresh Produce Consortium. I did invite them, but unfortunately they can't take part in today's event. And I said I will listen in, and if there's anything of interest, I will report back to them. So it's very difficult in sort of finding everything in one place. And you know, people who wish to export to the United Kingdom need to do some research in finding the appropriate partner. I mean, Paddy Willis will speak later on about sort of the market opportunities themselves, because I'm not really sort of involved in the marketing side of things. But as I said, it's a mature market, but it's a slightly complicated market because there's a lot of diversity. As far as the trade channels are concerned, there are multiple retailers and discounters. As far as market shares goes, it's usually sort of about a handful of retailers which control most of the market, and they all have their own brands in the grocery sector, in the ambient food sector. So things like canned fruits, canned fish, and so on. Whilst they will sell the leading brands, they will also sell their own brand. And so anybody who is a supplier to a retailer will also be expected, on most occasions, will be expected to also supply them in their private label. There's a large wholesale sector, which includes symbol groups like, for example, SPAR. I'm not sure whether there's a SPAR in Lebanon because they're quite an international organization, but they are an importer who will supply smaller retail shops. And so these small retail shops will be part of the symbol group. And I'm sure Paddy will say some more about it if he wishes. There are then delicatessen shops and fine foods shops, which are independent ones. I had a look, there used to be a trade association for them, but it doesn't seem to exist anymore. But I do know there is annually an exhibition, and James might be able to talk more about it, which is sort of specifically aimed at fine foods. And then of course, there's food manufacturers who import raw materials for themselves. And retailers, as a rule, do not import. The exception is certain products, such as, for example, wine. Wine they will actually import in their own name, but things like canned fish, canned fruits, commodities, they will use an importer to import on their behalf. As I said, there's many trade associations, and you know, I'm happy to sort of point you in the right directions. If Ralph comes to me, I can soon tell him, look, those are the people for dried fruits and nuts and for other commodities. You may be aware that in an audit situation, most retailers, if not all, subscribe to what is called the BRC, the British Retail Consortium Global Standards. And these are used in about used by over 26,000 companies in around 130 countries. It is quite international, and retailers, food manufacturers will not import from a company that is not BRC certified. And a word of caution there, because the exporter will have to pay for it. So I would not try and get BRC certified unless you can expect serious business opportunities with a partner in the United Kingdom, because it's quite an expensive business. These audits are carried out on a regular basis, maybe not annually, but certainly biannually. And it's just something that you have to do in order to be able to do business, certainly with retailers and food manufacturers in the United Kingdom. There's a new thing which came into being about 4 or 5 years ago, and those are ethical audits. By ethical audits, I mean is It assesses the company system, its documentation and facilities against the Ethical Trading Initiative. And there's a base code as well as local laws. And there have been numerous reports, often about migrants and others being treated unfairly by employers. So I don't know whether there's something which applies to Lebanon, whether you domestically employ a lot of migrants, but God, you have plenty of migrants at this moment in time because of the situation in the Middle East. But it is another facet of getting accredited when trying to supply the United Kingdom. There is a fair trade scheme, which is run by the Fair Trade Foundation. That mostly applies to commodities, things like coffee, also by bananas, for example, and things like that. And a lot of information about the Fair Trade Foundation is available on the internet. You just need to Google Fair Trade, and you can read up for yourself what they do for you. As to standards, where there are marketing standards that were applied by the European Union, this will continue to be applied when we are fully independent as from the 1st of January 2021. There will be no changes to that. There is an organization called the Camden and Chorleywood Science and Technology Research Association that also supplies a lot of information about marketing standards, certainly in the canned and processed food sector, flour and such like commodities. And again, you can find information about them on the internet. The marketing standards they have are used by the industry here, importers, food manufacturers, to base their own internal standards on. You know, some companies, big manufacturers, they have their own standards and manuals, which sometimes go to something like 200 or 300 pages. But you know, there are base standards, and some of these base standards have been set by Camden Research. As to food law, again, I can tell you that the existing EU food law will continue to apply in the United Kingdom as from the 1st of January 2021. Basically, all we're going to do is, our government is going to do is reprint the regulations, removing all reference to EU and EU law. So the existing food labeling regulations will apply as is. We don't expect any changes, perhaps for the first 2 or 3 years, until things have settled down, and it may well be possible then that the United Kingdom will deviate from the standards set by the EU. A lot depends on whether we sign a trade agreement with the EU and what is in the agreement. So, but for the moment, in any event, for the next 2 or 3 years, you can work on the same standards that apply in the EU. And lastly, organic food was mentioned in the pre-meeting. There are changes to certification as far as organic food is concerned, as from the 1st of January 2021. So if you were a certified organic food producer to the EU, there are changes if you want to now supply the organic food to the United Kingdom. I have all this new information which I can pass on to Ralph, and he can pass it on to interested companies in Lebanon. I think that's all for me for the time being. As I said, Paddy will expand further on the marketing side of things, and James will talk about opportunities as far as trade exhibitions are concerned. Thank you for listening to me. You haven't got your microphone on.
Here you go. Thank you, Walter. We move to our second presentation, and I invite Mr. Murray to present.
Thank you, Atef. I'm hopefully going to share my screen with you. Bear with me a second. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
yes, yes.
Yes, we can.
And thank you for the opportunity to join the webinar today. My name is James Murray. I'm International Sales Director for Montgomery Group. Montgomery Group are one of the largest independent organisers established in 1895. And one of our very, very important sectors is food, drink and hospitality. As Walter mentioned, in fact, we do run the speciality and fine food fair, which is very much focused more on the gourmet and artisanal type of products that he was talking about. And we run that show in London and also in Singapore. At a personal level, I ran the London International Wine Fair for 10 years, which is why you may see the wine bottle in the background. So I'm a big fan of Lebanese wines, but I'm now more involved in general food and drink trade events. The food and drink trade show calendar has become an integral part of many companies' export programs, and we're very proud that IFE London is a key part of this. IFE is the largest and most respected food and drink trade show in the UK. And I just wanted to give you a brief insight into this, because certainly if you're looking to boost your exports, an exhibition like IFE is a very time-effective way of meeting a large volume of buyers in one go. And I'm sure that many companies who have joined the webinar are participants at many trade shows globally. To give you a very brief overview on IFE, the 2019 event attracted 25,000 buyers and 1,200 exhibitors. Our exhibitors and audience at IFE come from, it was certainly in 2019, came from 97 countries. We have a lot of independent companies exhibiting, but we also have a lot of international pavilions who are supported by group export development organizations. And we had 30 pavilions represented at our last event. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we are unable to hold our 2021 event next March, but we're looking forward to returning in 2022 between February and March at Excel in London. The exhibition really does provide a great overview of the food and drink market as a whole. Clearly here in the UK, the grocery retail market is tremendously important. It is a massive part of the retail sector as a whole, and clearly where a lot of consumers go to shop, and we attract really all of the key organisations from this vital sector. But of course, a lot of independent retailers, a lot of premium retailers, and a lot of online retailers, which is a burgeoning sector here in the UK. That's complemented by a lot of group and independent buyers from the food service and hospitality market. But it's worth noting that over a quarter of our attendants actually come from the manufacturing sector. So if companies are looking to supply in bulk, if they have commodity, then it's also a very good platform for you to showcase your products too. And for most exporters that I deal with that are coming to the IFE for the first time, clearly they are looking for wholesalers and distributors and importers who can work with them and provide that route into the retailers and food service operators and the consumers. And almost a third of our attendance come from this vital sector. For the first time in the UK, in 2022, IFE will actually co-locate alongside 6 other events. Really, the co-location of these events is something that's never been done before. It will certainly attract more relevant buyers to IFE, and it will bring the entire food, drink, and hospitality supply chain together for the first time. It really is a first for the UK market. It's something we're very excited about. So IFE will sit alongside IFE Manufacturing Solutions, which is for ingredients companies and processing and packaging companies looking to target manufacturers. HRC, which is the leading HoReCa exhibition in the UK. The pub show, which is a big show for the vital pub sector in the UK. It's a big market. Festival of Enterprise, which is designed to support companies who are starting up or maybe looking to scale up. The London Produce Show, which I think could be very important for many companies from Lebanon, focusing in on the fresh produce sector. And also European Coffee, Tea and Soft Drinks Expo, the soft beverage exhibition for the food and drink industry. So exciting times for us. We believe that we're creating something that's never been done before, but that will add even more values for exhibitors to a show like IFE. I don't think there is a right or wrong way of participating in an event like IFE. If you have the opportunity to join an international pavilion, this can not only bring benefits in terms of funding, but also the logistical planning of your stand and the support with shipping and everything that goes into putting your participation together. But certainly that said, if you want to stand out from the crowd, then an independent stand can certainly be more impactful and create more attention. And we certainly provide the support to make that happen. Either way, my recommendation is try not to avoid booking too late. Certainly from our side of things, earlier than 6 months from the event is advisable. That's really when we know that the buyers start looking at the companies that are exhibiting, sourcing their products, planning their journey, planning their buying trip. But also, you don't want to miss out on any pre-show publicity in trade magazines and also in our own communications. And we have a very large social media outreach that companies can benefit from. Clearly, COVID has had an impact. And as I mentioned, our 2021 event, unfortunately, has had to be cancelled. Things are looking much more positive in the UK. There's a much more positive outlook, but March next year was just that little bit too early really to run a trade show of the scale that we were looking at and deliver the results that we want to deliver for our investing exhibitors. But I can confirm we are currently working on a virtual platform, which I think could be of interest. It will provide compelling content, lots of information really to help operators in their business, especially in these tough times. But it will also include a directory and advertising opportunities for exporters promote to our buying community. More details will follow shortly, and I'll certainly ensure that the embassy is updated on this and that they can share that with you. Finally, whilst I respect that IFE is not the same size as our international shows like Anuga and CL, our scale and our focus are also it really is a unique marketplace in the UK. Now that we are in the process of leaving the EU, and we are very, very different in many ways to mainland Europe. It is a huge and dynamic market. It presents plenty of opportunities.
But if I may, can you mute, please? We have some interference. Please go ahead.
Thank you. The UK is a huge and dynamic market. It presents plenty of opportunity, and you will certainly learn a lot by participating at IFE. In fact, we offer networking opportunities and clinics with many of the key certification bodies and associations that Walter has mentioned. But my recommendation, my wholehearted recommendation, is to plan in advance. Understand where your products sit within the category and who you're looking to target. You're just about to hear from Paddy Willis from Mission Ventures. Where possible, work with organisations such as Mission Ventures Really get under the skin of the UK market to fully capitalize on your participation at events like IFE. I put a phrase here, he who fails to plan is planning to fail, and I wholeheartedly believe that with a little bit of planning, you can generate significantly more results. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate it. Good luck with the webinar today, and I'll be available if you have any questions. And please do contact me afterwards if you require any more information.
Thank you, Mr. James Murray. We move to our third session in this panel, and I invite Mr. Paddy Wills to take the floor, please.
Thank you, Atef, and it's my pleasure to be joining the webinar today and to share some insights into the UK grocery industry. We've obviously had some overview from Walter, but what I'm going to do, look at it more from how you would go about launching into the market, and some recommendations, some top tips as to how we would see a new brand addressing the marketplace. So if I can share my screen, probably easiest. Hopefully you can now see my introductory slide. This is just very briefly about Mission Ventures. We're an organization that partners with startup businesses here in the UK, as well as with major companies. So we recently announced a joint venture with Warburton's, the bakers. They are the 5th largest food brand in the UK, but actually the most purchased brand in the market. And that's to help with innovation, finding new exciting opportunities around bakery, baked goods, products that involve baking in the process. And we also have a program that works with impact investors around looking at childhood obesity and how we can help promote healthier challenger brands to help address the quite significant challenge that we have in this country on that rather unfortunate topic.
Eddie, can you click full screen, please?
Is that better? Oh, hang on. Are you seeing the full screen, or are you still seeing the segmented screen? That's good.
It's fine. It's fine now. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So moving swiftly on to, if I can get my cursor, there we go. So the UK is a very significant grocery marketplace. It is, as Walter was commenting earlier on, very heavily dominated still by 4 major supermarket groups. And we don't see that changing in the near future. There has been a huge uplift in the amount of market share that's been acquired by the likes of Aldi and Lidl, 2 very prolific and very successful discounting businesses. But what's been really notable, and I've just put a few data points on here regarding the impact of COVID, because I'm sure you will have seen this as well back in Lebanon, but the UK has always had quite a strong marketplace for online supermarket delivery. And you'll see from the chart there just how much increase in demand there has been, and how much investment had to be made by the supermarkets to support the demand for home delivery of grocery. It's worth pointing out that it is a market that's really hard for the UK supermarkets, because they are not really set up initially to do that. They rely on people going to store ordinarily. And so it's very costly. It doesn't make them a huge amount of margin on their sales, but they have to do it. The top logo on there, Ocado, is a digital supermarket. We've worked with them over the last few years. We've helped launch well over 100 brands into the UK market through their portal. And they've seen, as you'll see, 237% increase during the period of February to March. So it's huge, huge opportunity. It's also a very good place where you can start out, because you have the opportunity then to speak directly, if you like, to your consumers through a direct channel. You have a much better opportunity of having standout. So it's something we would certainly consider as important. And just one point in there, there's been a huge increase in the amount of home snacking during the lockdown periods that we've been encountering. We're still in lockdown now, and it's demonstrating how human nature is. We want to treat ourselves. We want to be kind to ourselves, and so snacking is one way that we can do that. quickly just touching on some top tips that we see here in the market, and I'm sure many of these will resonate with you back home as well. Personalization, again, really only possible when you are working on a direct consumer basis, but you know, Nutella, Coca-Cola, we've seen many of the big brands working on this. Personalizing of the label is just one way of trying to build that bond with the consumer. And in relationship to freedom food, so that's really all of the, you know, free from foods. When we started running business accelerator programs back in the early part of 2015, when we had a lot of applications coming in and they told us, oh, we're free from this, we're free from that, we would sort of slightly put our head in our hands and say, okay, well, we'll try that. It'll be a very worthy tasting product, but it won't be great. Things have moved on so much now, and now the consumer is demanding that a product be as good or better than the full of product. And we're also seeing more brands now talking about what they have in their product rather than what they've taken out. And that's a really important factor in considering a processed or packaged food. Taste not waste. I've used the example of Toast Ale here. Now, they're a very successful brand that scaled very effectively. They're also a social enterprise, and they're using waste bread from the baking industry and from through retail and from the main bakers to create beer. So they're using the yeast from the bread as the stimulant within the brewing process. And then we're seeing many areas as well where people are looking at how they can create the sort of circular economy and avoiding food waste. So that's been a big topic of debate here, as obviously plastics in packaging. No small print. I've used the example of RX Bar, an American product that came to market a few years ago. I think they were bought relatively recently by Kellogg's. They completely transformed the whole proposition to consumers. Rather than hiding all the ingredients on the back, they've gone front of pack and said, this is what is in your product. And that comes back to this point about the fact that the food industry, big food, for decades now has been pushing out loads of processed, highly processed food, which has not necessarily been healthy. And that's caused a lot of the issues that we see today around obesity. And then the last point around better indulgence, example here of Cadbury, part of the Mondelez group, that's managed eventually, after 2 years of trying, to take 30% of the sugar out of the product. It hasn't really worked, but it is a move in the right direction to try and improve on their products and make them products that you can still indulge in without necessarily doing your body too much damage. So I mentioned the fact this is a very dynamic marketplace, and the fact that we have over 6,000 products launched every year demonstrates this. And the work we do with startup businesses, we've never seen so many people in the last year or two looking to launch companies. The barriers to entry are relatively low, and there's been a proliferation in the amount of commercial kitchens that you can use on a day basis to produce your products. But the really important point I want to stress, and this is something that James picked up on in his slides, is that you really need to understand who you're trying to sell to, not just as a consumer, but also what's the channel that you're going to be able to exploit to maximum effect to arrive in the market. So how are you going to break through? You know, there you have and we've seen supermarket groups reduce the buying teams, so they have fewer people dealing with more demands for listings from new products, and it's become a very tough marketplace to be heard in. So Ralph, I'm sure, will relate to this dummy email, which we've spoken to a number of trade commissioners in the embassies in London, and they've all said this, which is every week they get an email from somebody back home saying, please can you get me the name of the category buyer at Tesco, the UK's largest retailer, because we want to launch into the UK. We're very successful back home. That very rarely gets the response that you want. That's not to say that it might give you the name of the buyer. They're always very helpful in Ralph's team. But the point is that that's very unlikely going to get you a listing. You probably won't get a reply for the first point. And secondly, you have to really work hard and earn your stripes, as it were, to be able to achieve a listing in retail of that scale. So my first top tip, if you like, would be to think like a startup. You know, you've got a proliferation of businesses trying to get heard by the buyers in the marketplace. And one of the best things you can do, and I apologize the fact the resolution on this slide is not great, but is to find some of those smaller independent groups where you can be seen and heard, and where you can start to build out your following. On the right there, Marigold, or Tree of Life, Cotswold Fair, some of the better health food wholesalers in the UK market. But what we recommend is that you build up. You need to have a strategy. You have to anticipate. You probably won't make money in the early stages of your export strategy to the UK, because you need to invest in building the brand recognition. Can it come down? Oops, thinking about it. I've got a spinning wheel on my laptop. As I wait for the slide to come up, it's not desperately scientific, but what my second tip is that you need to build a brand, not a product. And that may be a very simple thing, and you, as business owners building brands yourselves, I'm sure you recognize that point. But you know, if you look at it, a product is just a set of physical attributes, but a brand is something that has an emotional attachment. You know, I'm a fan of Apple. I wouldn't buy anybody else's products. I don't get up you know, I don't go and queue overnight to get the latest iPhone or the latest MacBook from the Apple store in London. But the point is that people will resonate. A brand resonance is all important. And you need to think about how, no matter what your product is, how can you tell the story of your product? You know, Lebanon has a very rich cultural background and backdrop. There must be elements that you can use to bring forward the story and the brand essence that will resonate with the British consumer. The other point I'm going to see if I can stop sharing and maybe see if I can reshare, because I'm not getting the slides to move forward. So let me just try again. My apologies. I seem to have the same problem. Well, these slides will be issued to you. So I'm just going to crack on with just remind myself what the next slide was. This was actually a case study of a business that we know very well, because it was co-founded by one of my co-directors. It's called Ape Snacks. It's a coconut-based business. It was they started importing coconut shavings and crisps from Thailand. The branding on it was not great, and the product actually was very much suited to the local market, so it was quite sweet. They fried the product and they used sugar in the process. What the team did is they were able to refine the product by baking it rather than frying it, and in line with the UK consumer, they used salt rather than sweetener. So they turned it into a savoury product rather than a sweet product, and that was because they understood the market opportunity here in the UK. And that went from a very modest sort of one 20-foot container a year to doing two 40-foot containers every 6 months. So it's understanding the local market, and that's something that we can help you with. You know, we have packages of support, and we work very closely with James's team to help businesses that are looking to come to the UK to first off do some desktop research to understand what your category looks like here in the market. Is there an opportunity for you? And if that looks promising, then there's a second package we can work on, which will actually take the dynamics and the commercials of your business and look at it from the perspective of what would that look like on shelf? What price point would you need to sell at? What is the margin available to you? And how do consumers start to, we have access to a digital panel where we can test products visually with their proposition on consumers. So there's elements that we can work on to help you to understand the market. And then we have many other associates who we work with, who, if you needed somebody to help hold your hand going forward, then we can support you. So my apologies that my technology has let me down. You will get the slides. There weren't many more to see, but and my contact details will be in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Paddy. We've had 3 great presentations. Are we supposed to discuss now what we're going to do, or shall we move on?
If I may, Mr. Atif, there's a question coming from Ryan Cease. She's agreeing with the brand recognition and says that it's a big part of our brand to be enhanced and promoted. It's more of a comment. What I would like to do at this stage is try to see whether there are some stones left unturned when it comes to the breaking through of the UK market. If you may, Mr. Atif, you are very well versed in that respect. Our three experts have tackled that subject from their perspectives. Yours would basically be a synthesis of the different pillars of breaking through that market, if I may say. So we understand from Paddy that there's a gatekeeper there. He is the person, or his institution or establishment acts as a buffer when it comes to entering the market, making introductions, meeting the right agents and the right people behind the value chain of the logistics of a commercial export. From the perspective of the exhibition, our Mr. James Murray, who's very well versed in that respect, has brought us a new perspective that preparation is key. 6 months ahead of time, one needs to contact the Montgomery Group or any other group for that matter. And also feel free to contact the embassy. We are here to help get you ready for the exhibition, COVID permitting, obviously. Moving to Paddy, the branding. Make sure that you have a brand which is adapted to the culture and adapted to the market here. Mr. Atif, I let you conclude this session. We still have maybe a few minutes, and then we will move to the session from our sponsors and supporters, QOOT and Berytech.
Well, Ralph, this is an excellent session, and I really appreciate what Walter, Paddy, and James presented. From my side, I would like to ask the gentlemen to comment on some of the key issues that have been inhibiting our market access from our perspective. We do have issues related to rejections because of labeling issues, and I'm sure Paddy and his team, and in his presentation, he addressed how we could be more focused on the specifics of the UK Food Safety Authority needs and the UK Food Labeling Act needs. Of course, we have rejections sometimes arising from using illegal or unsafe additives. The UK has always been improving and upgrading on its ingredients lists, and we need to understand, if we're exporting nuts, for example, that we cannot use certain colorants because they're not allowed by UK authorities. And here I'm sure Walter would like maybe to comment a little bit on the rejections due to unsafe additives or colorants, and this constitutes 35% of some of our exports. But of course, the other issue that we need to better understand and get a small comment from James on how we can introduce our new products that are being developed all the time, so that we can use his platforms to better address our new products that we are exporting to the UK. I would appreciate a small comment from Walter and Paddy and James on some of the issues that have been raised by some of the attendees.
Shall I go first? The current regulations that apply in the EU in regards to contaminants, additives, colors, whatever, continue to apply. They will not change. So it'd probably be easier for the time being if you look at the EU regulations, because the United Kingdom regulations, although they be replicating EU, may not be available for some time next year. On things like nuts, for example, particularly contaminants, a major issue, ochratoxin, aflatoxin, which has to do with really the way you grow and handle things. I mean, you get it particularly in the dried fruit, dried grapes industry, where toxins build up through the overuse of water, etc. So, as I said, you need to be very careful, because first of all, I think Paddy said that the main thing now is as natural as possible. Try and avoid anything unnatural. The consumer will not like it. They don't like things, too many additives, too many colorants, too many whatever. They become very, very fussy. So where possible, try and avoid any kind of unnatural ingredients in a food product. Before you ship anything, have your products tested. Don't go and ship something and then you find out when it comes to the border, the port house say, no, you can't import it because we found this, that, and the other in your product. It's too expensive because a rejection at the border means you have to ship it back. You're going to lose the business because your customers are not going to be very happy, and it'll cost you a lot of money, and it's just not worth it. If you want to do business as in the EU, in the UK, test your product and make sure that before it leaves your factory or your field or whatever, it is actually in compliance with the regulations. Your supplier will expect you to do that. Particularly in the fresh fruit sector, there are a lot of restrictions. As you know, from the EU, you need certificate, almost like house certificates. I'm not really sort of an expert on fresh fruit and vegetable, but it's strictly controlled. And so, you know, you need to absolutely ensure that before you ship anything, you can be certain nothing can be found when it reaches the border of the country of, you know, it's being sent to. That applies everywhere. It applies to the United States. The Food and Drug Administration is not any easier than the FSA. I mean, I forgot to mention actually the Food Standards Agency in the United Kingdom is taking over the responsibility from both EFSA, the European Food Safety Association, and the relevant departments in the European Commission. So they be the major body which will deal with contaminants, labeling, ingredients, and et cetera, et cetera. So, as I said, just finally, the advice is check before you ship.
Can I listen to a very quick comment, Paddy or James, on novel foods? How can we bring a new product that is not very well known in the UK to be registered with the Food Safety Authority to be marketed? Lebanon has a lot of innovative products, and an idea from you could help some of our listeners, noting that one of the attendees is asking about exporting grapes and the compliance of branding fruits and vegetables.
I can't comment on the registration process for novel foods because it's not something that I've personally been involved in, but I'm sure that's something which Ralph's office could possibly help with connecting to the relevant authorities. But I think
Sorry, can I just interrupt you? You will have to apply to the FSA if you want to register novel foods.
Yes, yeah, good point, Walter. Thank you. As regards to branding of things like fruit or introducing products that may be less familiar, I think certainly if it's a product you're trying to get interest in the market, then there's no doubt that you know, attending events like IFE or maybe the Specialty Fine Food Fair in September, another one of James's Montgomery Group shows, that's a great opportunity to sample lots of buyers from all sorts of different retail environments and wholesale to stimulate interest. I think it's always tough if you've got something that's very new, but it's, you know, getting people to taste and sample it is a really important piece. And I did see one of the comments in the notes in the chat about the importance of the Lebanese brand. And I think you have as a nation, I think you have a huge opportunity to capitalize on the goodwill that there is currently to re-support the country in its redevelopment and getting back on its feet. And I think, you know, if I get back into my kitchen here, my wife has a huge collection of cookbooks. The most prolific author that she has in there is Yotam Motolengi. So we have, you know, a huge passion for food from the region, and I think that's an opportunity to be built on.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, I mean, I really, Paddy sort of said what I would say. You know, we're a really multicultural and adventurous market, and certainly, you know, people will try new products, but I think it's just really important to have the brand story behind that, and really a very clear understanding of the benefits and how it can be incorporated.
Thank you, sir. I think we've wrapped it up, Ralph. The last question goes to you. How can we initiate something of this nature collectively? And I leave the ground to you. Thank you for an excellent session, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Atif. Thank you, Mr. Willis, Mr. Anzer, Mr. Murray. It was really exciting to hear from you all of these insights. To answer the questions of our participants regarding the fresh produce, there's a dedicated session for that. We will hear from the experts on both sides of the spectrum, from the receiving and sending side, and they will explain in so many details how we can look into the fresh produce market coming from the perspective of labeling, the regulatory framework applicable to the fresh produce, and also the point of entry where there's a large market, and also there's a distribution channel that we need to tap on. So we'll leave that to later. But for now, thank you so much, gentlemen, for all the general and very detailed as well inputs from your sides. I believe that we have set a nice pace to this webinar. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our next session, which will be hosted by Mr. Maroon Shammas, the Chairman and the CEO of Berytech, Lebanon, and Mrs. Nadine Khouri, the CEO of Robinson Agri and the President of QOOT, which is the accelerator in the agri-food innovation cluster in Lebanon. Thank you very much for supporting this particular webinar, first of a kind, and we leave the floor to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ambassador Murtada, Ralph, Mr. Ralph Name. Thank you for organizing this. The first session was extremely interesting. I benefited a lot. I listened and heard a lot from experts. Mr. Paddy Willis gave very detailed and simple steps to follow. Also, I think the fact that the different people on the floor spoke about, how to go about the different steps to introduce products and services into the UK market. Extremely beneficial. Thank you so much. In this session, I'm going to talk a bit about what Berytech does, and we're going to have a number of experts. Mrs. Nadine Khouri will also join me. I would like Maria to put forward the presentation of Berytech. So just to give you an idea of what we do and how we help entrepreneurs. You spoke about a bit earlier about companies in the entrepreneurship sector and how to introduce your product. So Berytech is about innovation. It is a USG, University of St. Joseph, one of the oldest universities in Lebanon. It's an initiative from the USG. And in this few slides, I have few slides to show you. I'm going to describe the process, what we do, and how we can help entrepreneurs, whether in the agri-food business or in other businesses. We started back 17 years ago, 18 years ago. We're celebrating our anniversary this year, 18th anniversary. And we are about innovation. So we started as a technology incubator and a technology accelerator. And now we have multi-disciplines and multi-sectors. Food, agri-food, and food is one of them. We have contributed in more than 140 startups. We have hosted more than 350 startups as well in our premises. We have 3 campuses around Beirut. These have helped in the creation of more than 2,000 jobs. More than 4,000 entrepreneurs were supported so far. We have given as grants more than $2 million. We have invested about $70 million in startups. And we continuously support SMEs in the sectors, as I mentioned. So we are about entrepreneurship, acceleration, and we act as the bridge between markets and entrepreneurs. So we give them the vitamins, if I may say, for them to enter markets without taking away most of the guessing and providing all the basics so they can succeed with the minimum investment. Because as we know today, the cost of entering markets, whether in technology or in food or in agri-food or in anything that when you're entering a market, it costs a lot of money. And the time and effort is also, depending on the market, is also significant. So what we're trying to do is to compress the time and compress the spending, because money now is becoming a difficult source to get in Lebanon because of the devaluation of the Lebanese pound, and especially the fact that a lot of businesses have money stuck into banks because of the capital control. So how we do that? Well, we have tools to help and foster innovation and help and foster the businesses and the entrepreneurship through communication and outreach, through motivation, through intellectual property valorization. We have a prototyping facility. We accelerate and we incubate as well. And we provide grant and matching of grants. So a whole area to help and support entrepreneurs in all of the sectors. We have also the QOOT clustering in the agri-food in particular, and Mrs. Khoury will talk about this in a minute. And obviously, we provide also technical assistance. So for instance, in one of the programs that we are hosting today with the support of the Embassy of the Netherlands in Lebanon, this is about agri-food and clean tech. So we have experts coming from Holland on a regular basis that participate and help support the businesses into the sector that I just mentioned. The next slide, please. So in a nutshell, we are about innovation, agriculture and food innovation, one of the sectors. And obviously, we are about also SME development. So concrete examples, for instance, we invest in companies, in SMEs that want to transform their business from, let's say, traditional bakery to biscuit factory. So we've done that for one of our entrepreneurs who she is located in Tripoli. We've done that also for others. We have a big array of innovative and I would call smart products into the food chain. These are products, whether it's snacks or more traditional products on the shelves of supermarket. But these all, they definitely need the proper introduction to the UK market, because the UK market is a particular market, and most of the companies cannot just enter the market in a wild way. They have to be organized and they have to put all the efforts so they are successful. I know that in the past, the wine industry have been, the market has been very receptive in the UK for the wine industry. And we hope that we can replicate this in other sectors. Lebanon today is suffering a lot from a negative growth. We're talking in 2020 about something around minus 20% growth. So, but the good news is that companies are getting their act together they have reacted. They are in their way to transform these unfortunate events into possibilities, because the cost of production in Lebanon, as compared to the prices today, have gone drastically down, and they can compete in certain markets, provided that they have, as I said, the proper introduction to these markets. So without further ado, let me please also introduce Mrs. Nadine Khouri, who will take it from there.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Before I start to explain how we started, how QOOT started, let me thank every one of you who contributed to this event. Thanks a lot. As Maroon explained before, clustering has come to light as a new concept for economic development. So QOOT was initiated by Berytech in 2018 with the support of the Dutch Embassy and the collaboration of a Dutch cluster, the Food Valley. We are a platform of the most innovative agri-food companies and knowledge institutes. We are around 55 members till now, and we hold a great varieties of companies and of subsectors. So we have small, medium, and large enterprises. We have local and international companies with us too. And we decided to join our forces and to tackle the adventure of the agri-food sector. I don't like to call it challenges. It's more about adventure, especially now, because now, as you may know, in Lebanon, as already Mr. Shamas mentioned, we are passing by an economic crisis and the COVID crisis. So what we are trying to do is to each member of us, as already you mentioned, James, Walter, and Paddy, we are trying to follow the food safety and food traceability of each member product. We are trying not to add many additives and being natural. We are trying to follow the consumer trend. Each member of QOOT has his own story. Each member has his own brand. And we are following the millennial trends, the consumer trends. We will try to test before any export to the UK. We like to call that we are the change makers of this industry. So this is what is differentiating QOOT between QOOT and other other members in other food sector. We share the same passion, the same confidence in this disruptive era, and we would like really to make a change. So to have a more healthy and more sustainable food production. Already you mentioned before that Lebanon is in front runner in the region. We are great entrepreneurship. We have great leaders. We have a high level of education, and we are internationally oriented. So, and all of this is backed by one of the most distinctive food culture in the world. So that's why we decided as QOOT to have an important role in Lebanon and abroad to disseminate this culture. So what we do exactly, for our members, we offer concrete services, either by what we are doing now or by business support, by bringing opportunities, by visibility, networking, lobbying. And if I can give some example, for example, we tried with some waste of the brewery to do a special compost for mushroom farms. We also have tried to, we have a good local fruits in Lebanon. So also we are trying to use them as dried fruits, such as prunes, bananas, and apples. Also, we are trying to introduce pickles and some fresh produce in a different branding and different packaging to be able for the local market and for the export. Although we are a Lebanese cluster, we are the first platform of its kind in the Middle East. We are the official partner of World Food Innovation. It's the online platform. And we benefit from the Next Society Cluster Booster And this year we received the European Cluster Excellence label in bronze. So we are always ready to host national and international companies to join our cluster. And we are very happy today to be with you on this platform, because development needs good people, needs a vision, and to follow the right direction. And we think that with Berytech and with QOOT, we are following the right direction. And if I may use Paddy pyramids also, I like it a lot, because this is how we will try to think and to shift with our innovative mind in Lebanon, and to try to export and to be more on the international scene. Thank you, and thank you, Ralph, and Mr. Ambassador, Walter, and James, and Paddy. And if anyone have a question, please, about QOOT, I will be happy to answer.
From the many brands that you have helped and scale up from Lebanon's platform to international platforms, QOOT and Berytech have been at the forefront of helping accelerating some of the businesses, whether they are already established or aspiring to be internationally recognized. Thank you, Mr. Maroon Shammas. Thank you, Mrs. Nadine Khouri. We appreciate your support, and we hope that we can, this would be the first of many events and collaborations what it has to do with the food and beverage industry. For now, some of the questions were answered, I believe. We will move to probably a little bit earlier than scheduled to Lebanon's fresh produce market in the UK. Yes,
I think there are some questions. Maybe we can answer them from the panelists.
Yes. Mr. Fawaz Hamad just shot a question right now. What are the requirements to become a member in QOOT, and what is the role of the member?
So the requirement is to be innovative. This is the first requirement. You should have a story, you should have a brand, you should be really a healthy product. You should follow all the criteria of all the health, the criteria and the certification of the health food requirements. And you should be really passionate about bringing your brands in Lebanon and abroad. So it's very easy, but you should have this innovative mind.
Okay, and how many members do you count, if I may, if you can reiterate?
Now we have 55 members. We have small enterprises, but we have also big multinational enterprises. Some of the startups that started in Berytech moved to small companies and are already with us.
Okay, all right. Mr. Maroon, would you like to conclude on this session, please?
Yes, what I want to just to make one way to introduce the products, if possible. I will ask Nadine, Mrs. Khouri, to send a box of what we believe are interesting products to showcase at the embassy when you have visitors, whether it's the Takabar or the Thyme Zadar in specially made boxes, or any other products that we think could be of interest. So as a showcase, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you. And you can join us also on the social media and check our website. So everything is in it there. QOOT Cluster, QOOT.cluster.
I think there is a question also from Mr. Arif Idris. Someone is offering to ship the box for free. Thank you very much. And also, Mr. Arif Idris had a question. Just a second. To Mrs. Khouri, how is the platform funded? You want to answer this?
So
Nadine?
I think, Maroon, you can answer this better.
Okay. Thanks to the generosity of the government of the Netherlands and the embassy in Beirut, the program is a 3-year program. We have sufficient funding to start up this program because QOOT is part of several tracks, one of which is the cluster. The other also activities are to empower SMEs and to make them, become companies. So for now we are funded by the government of the Netherlands. There is a small fee, I believe, to join QOOT, but it's a very symbolic fee as well.
Yes, there is a membership fee, and we are, as Maroon mentioned, we are supported by the Dutch embassy.
Thank you again, Maroon. Thank you again, Nadine. And your contacts will be shared with the lot by email whenever they reach out. So looking forward to our future collaboration. And this is a session which has, the next session will be about the Lebanon fresh produce. We have a number of potential exporters. They look into the UK market and the EU market as a target market. There are some, as Nadine said, some of the challenges which could be translated into opportunities. We will look into the granularity of that subject with Mr. Nadim Trabulsi, Director of Fruits of Lebanon, UK, established since 1994, and Mr. Philippe Adaimi, the co-founder and board member of Fair Trade Lebanon, a enabler in so many ways to help exporters get up to standard and export their fruit and vegetables produced from Lebanon to international markets. Mr. Nadim and Mr. I'm just looking for Philippe. Is he around? Excuse me.
Ralph, may I say a few words here, please? Sorry, so to interrupt. One of my takeaways of the first two sessions, mainly the first session, is that there is obviously a need for further knowledge of the UK market by Lebanese producers interested in this market. That's one of the gaps that we hope to be bridging with the new trade agreement that will enter into force in January. This agreement is beyond a free trade agreement. It's a partnership between Lebanon and the UK, and it has it allows for the creation of specialized bodies which would contribute in educating Lebanese producers on the UK market. Obviously, the UK market is a highly regulated one, and there needs to be very extensive and substantial knowledge on the standards and regulations of the market. Brexit has been a bit transformative. As Walter said, probably the UK will be replicating the food standards, the EU food standards, but this is yet to materialize in the near future. So there needs to be proper study and knowledge of the UK market prior to putting in place an export business model. And as I said, that's what we hope to achieve through this partnership agreement, because at EU level, the relations were so diluted with 25 member states, whereas this one, we specifically have a partnership agreement with one country, the UK, which will allow for more closeness and more knowledge by Lebanese producers of the UK market. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Points made that one needs to understand the market. And this is a transition to our next session, if I may. Mr. Philippe Adaimi has joined us right now, and Mr. Nadim Trabulsi is, I believe he is online. Nadim? We don't have a picture, and there you go. All right.
Okay.
I will just make a quick introduction about the session, Mr. Nadim and Mr. Philip. This is the Lebanese audience would like to learn what is it that one has to do to enter a market as complex and as simple at the same time when it comes to fresh produce. We understand that geographically we are on two sides of the sphere. We have a quite diverse number of fruits and vegetables that we can provide all year round based on the seasons, and we can at a certain point also try to work out the bridging of the logistics gap between Lebanon and the UK. Mr. Philippe has been involved in exporting, and Mr. Nadim has been doing a great deal of work in that respect here in the UK. So if I may start with Mr. Nadim, who will tell us about the market here. There's a small video that he was kind enough to take from the market here, the large market here in London, and he will explain to us in your words what is it that we are witnessing and what we are seeing. So please, Mr. Nadim, I'll leave the floor to you.
Yes, first of all, good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this webinar. Thank you, Ralph. Actually, I'm an importer of fruits and vegetables from Lebanon. I've been for the last 27 years. I'm a wholesaler, so I sell fruits and vegetables from all over the world. But let me tell you my experience from importing fruits from the Lebanon. In the past and nowadays. Fruits coming from Lebanon has already a name, and it's more superior than other in quality and taste than other products available in the UK. It's an advantage. In the past, I found it really difficult because of the strong currency. I was importing, small quantities, until, I started up, and my company now since turnover is around 12 to 15 million pounds per year, selling just fruits, not vegetables as well. From the Lebanon, I tried my best, most those 27 years to promote the Lebanese fruits and vegetables. I've, faced so many problems. Lately, as I explained to you right before, last December 2019, DEFRA, which is the Department of Agriculture, issued the Lebanese Agricultural Ministry with instructions on what to use on some steps for in the phytosanitary certificate, an extra declaration which would shows what kind of pesticide was used on some of the prunes, which is like almond, plum, stuff like that. And I want to actually reiterate what Mr. Mali said. It's costly if we ship and we don't, or the ministry in Lebanon or anybody tell us what the rules, when we don't abide by the rules and regulations. So my shipment was stopped in May, actually. I wasn't informed that I wasn't supposed to ship this kind of fruits. And I had the airline, I ship by air, actually. And my shipment was stopped. So since May, that was in May, since May until now, we try with the Ministry of Agriculture in Lebanon to solve this problem, to no avail until now. Okay, that's one of the problems we really need to address. That first of all, DEFRA has strict rules and regulations. Mr. Murray tapped on it and he said, you have to abide with them. The Ministry of Agriculture has to inform the farmers and the growers in Lebanon about these regulations before doing anything else. Otherwise, it's going to be costly for everyone. Now, what I was going to say, as I said, the Lebanese product is it's a fantastic product. But we need to diversify our kind of, growing fruits and vegetables. So the normal or the usual apple, grapes, and banana, or not banana, sorry, in Lebanon, let's say we have cucumber or whatever. We need to diversify the growing, sorry. To introduce new varieties in London, to the UK market. So what I'm saying is you are seeking now a market for a product for the UK. What we should do is seek a product for the UK. So it means that like Jordan does, Egypt, because I do import from Jordan, from Egypt, from Cyprus, means that to grow specific fruits and veg for the UK. The latter 4 or 5 years, we started receiving grapes, which is the crimson grapes. I mean, I worked in the wholesale market in Lebanon in the 80s, and until lately we didn't have this variety. It's been received greatly in the UK. There's always windows to introduce and gaps, like for strawberries, blackberries.
Now you're muted.
Which is not the normal.
Mr. Nadim, the connection is not very well.
Everybody.
Mr. Nadim, the connection is not well. So, would you like to reconnect?
To send to the UK, like potatoes or avocados or all that kind of stuff. The other thing is what are for markets. Hello?
Yes, the connection was not very well. Yes, it's better now. It's better now.
It's a short time I'm coming up from my iPhone.
May I suggest? Yes. Thank you. I mean, we understand that you've been up since 1 o'clock early morning at the market, and I think a lot of people are very. Yes, you are at the market, and a lot of people are interested to see what the market is like. Would you like us to show the audience what is a fruit and vegetables market in the UK like? And we played the video.
Before that, Ralph, let me reiterate something about exporting and dealing with big corporate like supermarkets and stuff like that, because I had the experience in dealing with this kind of corporate. For the time being, we are not ready to deal with them directly. And I give you an example. I mean, you go there, they have the restriction, they have so many restrictions and so many rules, other than the GAP, other than BRC. There are so many, they have their BC reports, they have, and then everyone wants to supply those supermarkets, okay? And I think the experience I had, you lose money, and then, you will have no opportunity to explore other people. So what I was gonna say, and I did 5 weeks ago, I had a gentleman come to my units here, and said he's a farmer, he's a Lebanese farmer, he has the crimson grapes, and if I can, help him out. As a wholesaler myself, I only serve greengrocers, small shops, small supermarkets. We do serve the catering section for fruits and veg, but we haven't got the capacity to sell 1 container of grapes in 1 day or 2 days. So he asked my opinion on what to do. Does he approach the supermarket directly? And I said no. And I said to him no. I introduced him to an agent, which are, we use ourselves. who supplies the wholesale markets and the supermarkets. And he did help him a lot with all the certification and everything. And I was so pleased yesterday that he called me and said to me, Nadeem, thank you very much to introduce me. For my first container just arrived yesterday. So my advice for any growers or any farmers who wants to send to the UK to start with now is to approach agent companies. I can give you a list of agents company, so you can publish it, and they will buy from, they'll make like a program, a yearly program of what they can, so they can benefit from windows, gaps in the market. UK markets, you need to understand the UK market. The farmers in Lebanon need to understand the UK market. My experience goes back for 27 years. The UK market is 12 months season. What I mean, cherries. I have cherries here for 11 months a year, 12 months a year, grapes. We have it for 12 months a year. We seek it from, if it is not from Egypt, from Jordan, from New Zealand, from Peru, so this is what they need to understand. But sometimes there is like a big gap for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks that for the time being, the Lebanese farmers can benefit from. And I can as well, Ralph, I will give you all this kind of information, as they come. If you'd like to share the video now, thank you very much anyway, Ralph. I'm really sorry, I'm a little bit tired, but I'm trying my best.
Thank you for the valuable insights. We will play it, and please do explain to us what we are saying. Can we lower the voice, please? We need to lower the voice a little bit.
هيدا شركتنا، هيدي محلاتنا. نحن عملت لهم بريف فيديو لايف هلا الساعة تقريبا 2:30 الصبح. هنا رح فرجيكم كيف عندنا الباعة بتجي، كيف بتجي، كيف تتعبى. بس فكرة صغيرة رح أعطيكم إياها. هيدي عندنا هون، هلا بنبلش من هون. عندنا انواع الكلمنتين اللي هي هلا ساتسوما، كلمانيول، اونيول. بيجي عندنا هلا بعد شوي صغيره نوع من المغرب تانجو اسمه. في نوع ثالث كمان ناديكوت، هلا بنشتغل عليه كثير. هذا الستروبري هذا من المغرب، هذا شغل من بلجيكا. هذه الكلمنتين اللي تدخل عندنا الاسبانيين صار على الاخر هلا. اكيد بيجي اورنجز. عندنا هذه هلا كاكي اللي هي
Mr. Nadeem, I suggest that you explain to us, because of the lack of clarity in the sound, what we are saying, and it would be much better for us to hear it directly from you as you guide us through the what we're saying. Would you kindly please play the video without the sound? I believe our team is handling this. There are many questions addressed to you, which we will answer at the end. A number of people would like to get in touch with you directly, and I can see that this session is gaining a lot of interest, so we'll tackle that later on. Mr. Nadeem, please, if you can unmute and explain to us what we are seeing.
All right. This is actually, pictures of my firm, my company in in the morning. As you can see, we've got refrigerated facilities. Show you the varieties of fruits and veg, fruits as well. I mean, fruits mainly. Over here, I was trying to show you that in clementine or mandarin, we have so many varieties, and they are sort of 12 months a year. We start with the Spanish until we go for Morocco, and then we have from all over the world, we try to get, the product. This is a Belgian strawberry looking at. I see now this is a clam from Spain. As I said, the Spanish season is about to finish. We will start with the Moroccan season, and then we will go to the Southern Hemisphere. This is a kaki, which we have. It's a Spanish, and this is different than the Lebanese because we can eat it raw. You can eat it softened, but right. But this can be eaten raw because there's a procedure. They expose it to some gas and they take the bitterness out of it. Some of my product, this is I'm showing, as I said, this is live. It was from the markets around 2 o'clock, I think, in the morning. We have mangoes from Brazil. This is mangoes from Peru. We have. We're going to come to the figs section. This is from Peru. By the way, the figs, I import some figs from the Lebanon, the white figs. Unfortunately, I don't have big quantity coming from the Lebanon. Turkey export, I don't know, by tons and tons and tons of figs from Bursa, which is black figs. This is at the moment, as I said, these are all out of seasons fruits that you won't find, So that's why I said, the Lebanese farmers need to understand the UK market. These are some peaches we have at the moment. They are from South Africa. This is a new season. We work with Spain, France, Belgium, all over Europe. This is cherries. This is from Argentina. We have cherries, like I said, for 12 months of the year. This is from Argentina. The Chilean will be around the corner, which is, we serve for the Christmas period. We have, varieties of grapes. Over here, there's Italian grapes, which is Italia. And this is all mainly see this. We have the black red globe. We have it in Lebanon, has a bit of seed. This is Italian, all Italian. This is a black pearl as well, grapes, which we have in Lebanon. But I mean, any grapes which has seeds is not. This is American grapes, actually, sweet celebration. You see it now. This is American grapes, sweet celebration. The grapes, as I said, the UK market has changed a lot. Nowadays, we could sell, like I said, 300 boxes of seeded grapes. We sell 2,000 boxes of seedless grapes. That's why the crimson, this is crimson from Spain. This is from Peru. This is the white grapes. This is what I was trying to say. For farmers to diversify, like they have started to grow crimson 4 or 5 years ago, and now they are successful in exporting it to the UK. That white grape you saw is called white globe, sweet globe. It's the same to the red globe, which we have in Lebanon, and farmers can grow that. We get a lot of grapes from Greece and from Jordan sometime and from Egypt. And Lebanon can grow varieties of Thompson, RA15, all that white grapes. They can seek the seeds and the knowledge how to grow it like they done with the crimson, and they could export to the UK. And that's what I meant, earlier on, to grow for farmers, to encourage the farmer to grow for the UK market. This is, you see, is the Turkish produce here. This is quince, which we call, Sfarja quinces. You see, it's a bit different than the Lebanese because it has no, what you call it, is smooth. This is some exotics we bring from Thailand. This is the avocado, Has avocado, which is so important. I have to tap on the avocado and how we sell it and how the UK market is changing. This is some Spanish pomegranate. You will see later on. This is a Turkish pomegranate.
Okay. Mr. Nadim, may I ask you a question everyone is repeating? The logistics is that Lebanon has the product, and for us to be able to ship those, we have to use two mediums. The first one is either we go through air freight, and this is an expensive option, or we go through sea freight, and this is basically the lengthy option. It takes 14 days to reach. The conditions in the sea freight are such that we can actually put them in the right conditions with the proper packaging, and they could reach here as fresh as they could be. Some commodities or some fruits and vegetables are able to be shipped by air, and others are able to be shipped by sea. The problem is that it is expensive to do so from Lebanon. How is Turkey doing it? Just give us a little bit of insights into the competition, so we know whether we are able to emulate or even better the competition.
Turkey is doing it by road. I mean, 4 days, lorry coming from Turkey arrives to the UK market, and that's the advantage. And they've got, it's a huge business. I mean, fruits and vegetable business in the UK is huge, and Turkey has the advantage that they can ship by road, or like by Greece. I get some stuff from Greece myself. I import watermelon from Greece by sea and by road, and I import from Morocco as well, lorries of watermelon. That's something else that Lebanon, hasn't got. We have to deal with what we have. At the moment, I cannot serve the Joe public, which is, the British, we are ethnicities here. I serve the ethnic group like the Asians, the Lebanese, Arabs, and stuff like that. This is what I do serve the Lebanese foods, and they accept it. So we need to think of a product that would be served to Joe public, like, as I said, the Crimson. I want to go back to the avocado, because I've been asked a lot about avocados, and avocados comes in different varieties: Fuerte, bacon, Tinger, Hass. Lebanon has the Hass avocado and the Fuerte, I think, and that's what I know. I think now the Fuerte, we get it from Morocco, Egypt recently, we have from Mexico, we have from Spain. Hass avocado is the same. But what is the trend now, the last 2 years, is to have avocado ready to eat. And the avocado ready to eat is a Hass avocado imported by a company which I can introduce the Lebanese exporter to it. They buy it by container raw, which is hard. They expose it to, there is a procedure, they expose it to gas, they do something, but they will ripen it. It's like banana, when you bring banana, but they ripen it. The avocado itself is still hard to touch, but when you cut it, it's edible. And that's, it's, 3 times the price of the normal Hass avocado if they're gonna jumble it up and send it to the market. This is very important.
I will definitely share your details. I will definitely share your details, Mr. Nadeem, with the audience. A lot of them would like to continue this conversation with you directly. There's also the other side of the spectrum where Mr. Philippe Adami has worked tirelessly and for a long period of time with the many layers of the fruit and vegetables industry in Lebanon, from farmers to cooperatives to distributors to exporters. And as I mentioned earlier, he has enabled them to become up to par to the standards. The mention of the regulatory framework as basically set by DEFRA, the department handling the agricultural products, is what we need to be up to par with in order for us to export to the UK. Mr. Philippe, if you can give us an idea about what is the story from your side. A lot of people in Lebanon have already tried to reach the EU market and succeeded. Others would like to access the UK market, which is quite similar in so many respects. What is it we need to do from our side in Lebanon, and how is it you're bypassing certain, if I may say, hiccups?
Well, first of all, thank you, Ralph, for having me today, and hello to everyone. I'm very honored to be here. Your Excellency, thank you. I'm sorry I was a little bit late. I had a few issues with my connection. If I may, I can share a PowerPoint so that I can explain what we are doing. If this is okay. So, Ralph, can you see it? Is it?
Yes, it is. It is. We can see. We can see it. If you can just expand it in slide mode, then we can see the whole slide.
So basically, we have been working for exports of agro-food in Lebanon for like 15 years. We have helped SMEs and small cooperatives to get into the EU market, the US market, and lately into the GCC market. As you know, there are different standards that one must reach so that you can enter specific markets. And part of our project, BL, is to also expand this experience to also fruits and nuts. And this is one of the clusters we'll be working on. We have, I'm sharing with you a few figures so that you know what Lebanon exports. Maybe this would help. In millions of dollars, I'm not very sure about the accuracy of the data because that's Lebanon. But from what we got from the Lebanese customs, we can say that we used to export for something like 700 million USD in agro-food. And 2020 still is not over yet, and we are something around 520 million. In these agro-foods, we will see that there is a very, very small share on everything related to vegetables, around 5 or 6%, and maybe 5% related to fruits. So if I want to put figures on these, I would go to this slide, and we will see that the whole exports of vegetable, fruits, nuts, and we include coffee, I mean, the customs do, is something like 150 or 180 million dollars. So this is basically very, very, very low, a very low part of our exports. And we think that there is a lot of potential in Lebanese fruits, vegetables, cereals, and related stuff. In our program, we work on three big pillars, if I may. Of course, the access to markets, which is what you are doing today. Ralph is connecting with importers. We also work in Lebanon to access standards, and we work on facilitating all the export procedures. And our team would be happy to welcome any producers who wants to export for the first time, needs to know more about the documentation. In 3 clicks, how can I do to export, whether it's fruits, vegetables, and so on. So we'd be really happy to help working on the standards and delivering the standards for EU, UK, or other countries for fruits, vegetables, and so on. We also have a new part of the project that is related to access to funds or to finance. We all know the situation in which Lebanon is. We have secured good deals with international or European funds that could also be there and help finance the working capital if needed. So basically, what we do is mainly try to ease access to the standards and to the regulation so that Lebanese exporters can expand. I want to also add one thing, that there is a huge potential. We always think that it's very complicated to export. Maybe it's not that way. Maybe it's something that we fear because we don't have all the necessary knowledge about that. But we have tested this for the last 15 years. We are exporting agro-processed food from all over Lebanon to more than 16 countries. And it is feasible. We need to abide by a certain number of rules. I'm very happy to see that these days many Lebanese are coming to us to tell us, okay, we want to export. What are the needed standards? What do we need to do? And I really want to benefit from this audience today to tell them that at Fairtrade Lebanon, we are ready to support for free to help you get your standards on, and to also ease the relations with the different ministries in Lebanon to ease barriers, if any.
Thank you, Philippe. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about basically the exports to the UK? We understand that there's a potential, untapped potential, when it comes to certain commodities, when it comes to certain types of fruits and vegetables. That Mr. Nadim has mentioned that the avocado is a required and sought after commodity here. Table grapes have already accessed the UK market, and there are some exporters who have already done the job of clearing customs and reaching the retailers here and the distributors. What other types of fruits and vegetables are readily available today that meet the global gap? Global gap is obviously the certification that is required from the farmer's perspective in order for us to bring the traceability aspect of each farmer to the regulatory on the other side of the market. This is a requirement. We have to start working along these lines. What is it that we have ready that meet global gap certifications, and that we are able to start as of today working with Mr. Nadim to export to the UK?
Global gap is a need. I mean, you cannot bypass these regulations. It's a GGN number that you take once and for all for your production, and then you put it and you stamp it on your labeling of the cartons that you are shipping or sending. So basically, yes, this is something that is needed. What I can tell you that many producers have this GGN number, whether for potatoes, for cherries, for also avocado in the north. We have many producers that have these certifications. One of the major issues that we have here in Lebanon is complying with the regulations regarding the pesticides. We have maybe a lack of knowledge with several producers who think that the more they power and they spray pesticides, the better it is for the vegetables and the fruits. And this is not something that's very true. So basically, yeah, we really need to abide by what is the request of this or that country, and then put ourselves to apply and comply by that. What we can also offer, Ralph, is a platform and a common logistic place, so that in order to cater one market, no need to wait to a full container to be ready. We can start with half pallets and pallets, and we do the service of getting all of the stuff together and make sure it goes to the right places. So we think that today it's an urge. It's more than a need for Lebanon, and we really thank you for this opportunity that you are giving to producers to get to know a market like the UK, who is a very large market in terms of imports of fruits and vegetables, as we saw in previous presentations.
Thank you, Philippe. Also, the other side of the compliance measures that we have to abide by are also meeting the pesticide residues and the laboratory testing that is required on the get-go, on the sender side. Have you experienced from the Lebanese perspective, and this is something that we can elaborate on in a different probably venue, but for now, for our audience to learn, what is it that one has to do in order to comply with the phytosanitary requirements of the regulatory body here? Obviously, traceability and global gap is one side, but also we sometimes tend to not address the phytosanitary requirements. And once they reach that gate here, most of our, the shipment goes to waste. And this is something that we need to avoid in the future. Hence, what is it we need to do to address this on the get-go?
First of all, we need to know that we have the skills, we have the labs that can do all of a battery of tests that is required abroad. So basically, most of the tests can be performed in Lebanon, whether with the IRI from the Lebanese University or the FANAR and government laboratory at the Ministry of Agriculture. So basically, we have the skills. We can do all the battery of tests that might be asked. Now, the issue is, and depending on each product, we need to, ahead of time, get from the counterpart what are the specification for such or such products. And sometimes it's not the same whether you want to export to GCC or to the UK. I don't want to go into very much details, but if, for instance, let's talk about grapes. If you want to sell grapes, you need to have both in a legal way the grapes. If you plant them and you don't have the license of the genetic code of the grape, then you cannot send it and export it. And this is something that many people do not know here. So you need to have, to abide by certain rules that many people can help on getting from the counterpart or from Lebanon. There is this, the IP, the intellectual property of a grape, of a whatever it is. And if it is not legally introduced and licensed in Lebanon, then you'll have a problem to re-export it. And maybe many producers do not know that. I'm taking an example of the grapes or other products.
Okay, all right. Nadim, in that respect, and in order to start wrapping up a little bit the session and work on the takeaways, organic, fresh produce coming from Lebanon, is it something required here? And what is it on the Lebanese side that one has to do? Do you think this is a time waster, or this is something that could be a potentially a breakthrough kind of endeavor that one can start working on?
Yeah. If you ask my opinion, I think it's a waste of time. Years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, the British taste, they all wanted organic. Anything organic, they would buy. Nowadays, even in the market ourselves, we had a section just to sell organic food, but all the certification you need, all kind of stuff. Still, a market for it in the UK. If you want, if they need to export or organic fruits and veg. In my opinion, it's far-fetched. There is no need for it. We can work with other products that are available. The main issue, as Philip mentioned, is the phytosanitary requirements certificate, with pesticide residue and stuff like that. I just want to say that DEFRA over here provides the Lebanese agriculture department with all the requirements. And I had a copy of it myself. And I want to warn, every year they do changes. And in January 2021, there's a new requirements. I mentioned it before, December 2019, they send it, and there's no step being taken to rectify the matter. Until now, I'm fighting with the Lebanese agriculture department to solve the problem, to no avail, Ralph. Okay, we cannot, before talking about exporting or importing or whatever, we need to address this issue. It's very important. And a few years ago, the cost for an importer is huge. It's not only that the DEFRA department over here will destroy the goods, but they'll make you pay for it. They'll make you, I had a shipment of oranges which had leaves, and they made me, I didn't abide with the regulation. And they asked me to bury, they had to take it and bury the oranges with the leaves. I had to pay for someone to stand over there, and it's too costly. So that's why we need to address this, certification, the pesticide residues on the fruits and veg we send from the Lebanon. It's very important. And then we can think of marketing the product. And marketing, there's so many ways to market UK is a huge market. And as I said, the Lebanese fruits has an advantage because it's tastier, it's as organic, if you want. When I sell the Lebanese food, I tell them it's really organic. We don't see, it tastes great, other than like the European counterpart. So, my opinion, the organic, we're gonna go back to the organic question. I mean, in my opinion, it's a waste of time for the time being in the UK. Years ago, I might have agreed with you. I would have said to you, yeah, you have to go through all the regulation to grow organically and export it to the UK.
Mr. Atif Idris is asking that the embassy will need to share these changes on an annual basis. And we are here readily available. And once they become available to us, we'll share them with you. Obviously, we need to be getting ready. The whole purpose of this webinar is to inform people and make them ready in advance. Trying to stir a tanker inside a port may be a little bit over ambitious. You need time. You need a year or two to get ready. Farmers need time and resources. And we need to guide them through the right channels. Mr. Nadim, your insights have been extremely valuable, and I believe that you have guided us through the whole process from A to Z. You will be part and parcel of what we do in the future, I believe. Your collaboration with the embassy will continue, I believe. A lot of questions will be addressed to you directly. Mr. Philippe Adaimi, thank you so much also for your, telling us what are the efforts that have been put to date, and what is it that we need to continue doing the right way in order for us to keep targeting a large, broad market such as the UK. Mr. Philippe remains also available for the many exporters in Lebanon and those aspiring to access the UK market. There is one question I would like to basically shoot before we conclude on the session. And it has to do with that many companies are already abiding by the standards. Will they be able to reach out to you, Philippe, for example, and the likes of your company to help them do the final steps and potentially have a connection with Mr. Nadim Trabulsi and also other importers? Would they be able to? Would you be able to help them continue the journey until they reach the UK market? The product is there. This is what we need an answer to.
On my end, yes, of course, that's what we do, and we'd be very happy to support and to be there for to increase the exports, yeah. And to work with Mr. Trabulsi, it will be also our pleasure.
Okay. We spoke a lot about wine and table grapes, and about table grapes, and I believe that it's high time that we start moving into our next session. If you have basically exhausted your side of the story, then we will swiftly move onto our next section. We are within the times, and thank you so much, Mr. Adaimi. Thank you so much, Mr. Trabulsi, for your participation and for the time you have allocated for us and for the participants. Look forward to speaking soon. Thank you.
If you allow me, I have a question for the
Please, Mr. Ambassador.
How useful you think could be working towards the organization of in situ, a workshop in Lebanon, attended by DEFRA specialists to kind of educate locally on the new, especially that the regulatory framework in the UK is in a transition. Now they say that they will stick to EU standards, but this is yet to be seen. Something could change in the next year or two. So this is something that is fluid, and we don't have yet the final destination on where would the regulatory framework of the UK be on standards and environmental regulations and others. So I think it's again about educating the producers in Lebanon. And one of the challenges we have in Lebanon and what relates to agriculture is that the production is very much fragmented. There is no single farmer that by himself could have access to the international markets and have the proper knowledge of the standards and regulations of that market where he has interest. So someone or something should bridge this gap. I'm sure initiatives like Philippe's and others are very, very useful on that. But I think there needs to be some structured effort, probably steered by the Lebanese government, by the Ministry of Agriculture. But again, the standards and regulations have become so complex that it needs instantaneous and real-time follow-up rather than just sending a document and sticking to it for a period of time. It needs to be more instantaneous and more interactive with the destination market. So having such a workshop, and why not maybe having a DEFRA antenna at the British Embassy. I mean, DIT has an antenna. Maybe part of this antenna would be DEFRA, so that producers could get real-time knowledge of the requirements before they get surprised or penalized once their shipments arrive to the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It's a great idea, and I think that it's really worth pushing forward and trying to implement such a big meeting and explain, because I think there is a big opportunity in the UK, as you were saying, now that the Brexit is coming, and I think that today is a big opportunity for fresh fruits and vegetables for the UK. Yeah.
Thank you again, everyone, for your participation in this well-rounded session on the fresh produce market in Lebanon and in the UK. We will keep in touch. I have sent a number of people who are asking for your contact details, your emails and numbers, and I believe they will get in touch with you directly. I remain available also to maintain direct contact on both sides, and we will work along the lines of His Excellency's guidelines and directives to try to establish this organization that will help bridge the gap in respect to the fresh produce markets. Also, another exciting, we have exceeded our session by 5 minutes, which is fine. Our next session does involve grapes. It is basically the very ancient art and of producing wine and winemaking in Lebanon. It dates from thousands and thousands of years back, and we pride ourselves as Lebanese to basically put our best foot forth in a market such as the UK, where everyone recognizes that that Lebanese wine is one of the most sophisticated wine productions in the world. So I'll leave that side to Mr. Michael Karam, our recognized Lebanese author, writer, journalist, and filmmaker for that matter, who has explored and exploited that particular bit. Also joining us is Mr. Rupert Berkman, one of the largest distributors and importers of wine and spirits here in the UK, well established since decades ago, The company is called Wine Cellars, and he will also be joining us in the session. Mr. Eli Ma'amari is the export director of Chateau Ksara, who already have a firm foot here in the UK, and all of us will try to extract some value and lessons learned for our aspiring winemakers who wish to enter the UK market, or even grow in times of uncertainty, as the title goes. So without wasting more time, I'll pass the floor to Mr. Michael Karam.
Thank you, Ralph. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Very good morning. Good morning, Your Excellency. Good morning, my fellow panelists, and good morning, all the attendees who are joining. Good morning from the south coast of England. Wine is Lebanon's most high-profile export. It can do so much. It can be a huge ambassador for a country's reputation. One only has to look at what wine has done to rehabilitating the reputations of countries like South Africa, to a lesser extent, Argentina. It can really send all the right, lovely, gooey messages that we want to send to the rest of the world about everything that is good about a country. And with Lebanon, there's a lot to feel good about, despite what the headlines might say from time to time. So we need to get it right. We need to get our wine message right. And with all due respect to people who make them, wine is not baklawa, it's not hummus, it's more complex than that. And that's why we need to work that much harder to communicate what our wine is about and to understand each market. And each wine market is different. London is different to New York, which is different to Berlin, which is different to Dubai, which is different to Copenhagen. So understanding the market is very important. No one size fits all. And that is why today I am but a mere conduit to the two guests that we have on this particular discussion. Eli Ma'amari is, I think he won't mind me saying, one of the most influential people in the Lebanese wine industry. He's been around forever. He's hugely respected around the world. Wherever he goes, one only has to travel, as I have traveled, taking Lebanese wine around the world, and everyone says, "Do you know Eli? Do you know Eli?" It's his, you know, he's following me everywhere I go. He's a great ambassador for Lebanon. He's been decorated by the French government for his services to wine. He is a wine maker. He's sold wine in practically every corner of the planet. So I think to get his insights on selling Lebanese wine in different markets will be invaluable. Next to him, Rupert Berkman, who heads Berkman Wine Cellars, one of the most forward-thinking and dynamic wine importers in the UK today. And having spoken to Rupert yesterday, I know that he is brimming with ideas and his own opinions about what producers have to do to succeed in this very, very, very competitive market. And Rupert will no doubt leave us in no doubt of how competitive this market is. So I think what we'd like to achieve today is to convey the do's and the don'ts about trying to penetrate a particular market, and what are the non-negotiables that we need to understand in order to succeed, be they branding, be they labels, be they pricing, be they the backstory that comes with any particular wine, be it the type of labels that will sell and what sell and which labels are needed at which price point and so on, and also the level of presence that producers need to dedicate to a particular market. So we don't have much time. I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to ask Ellie to open what I hope will be a really, really fascinating and worthwhile chat with a lot of takeaways that we can put to good use in the future. So over to you, Ellie.
Ellie, would you mind unmuting your microphone?
Sorry. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Michael, for this nice introduction. I'm really impressed. Let me start by please thanking His Excellency Mr. Rami Murtada and Mr. Ralph Naim, of course, for this great idea of webinar and the creation of the Lebanese Food Beverage Association. And also thanks to the Berytech team. Well, I have a short presentation about ideas that I would like to share. From my perspective, I think there's a general positive perception of Lebanon as a country that is able to produce high quality wines. And we have no other choice but to do this. It's a very small country, so we cannot compete in quantities, but we can definitely compete in quality. And this, of course, is mainly driven by the presence of Chateau Nizar, who's very famous in the UK and elsewhere, of course. So definitely a very interesting market. A very important point that I need to share with you is that the distributors help selling the wines, but definitely it's for the wineries to build this brand, to build their brand. That is very important to know to start with. So some of the ideas that I could share is to whom we target this wine. We have the consumers age. I think the young modern day wine consumers is very important to tap in and to tackle because they have a more open mind than the older ones. And they are eager to try newly introduced wines, new regions, different wines, new grape varieties. Most importantly is the fact that they share very quickly, as we can see on the picture, they share very quickly the news through the social media platform, and this leading to a very quick promotion of the one that is proposed. Second slide is about the trade, which is very important. It is for the winery to build the brand, as I said. They should be present in these trade if possible. So trying to get presence in major retailers is the ideal way to make wines visible to the general public. I admit it's not easy at all. It's very, very difficult. But from time to time, these supermarkets, they send tenders, and who knows, one might gain this tender and then be able to enter these into these traders. What is more easy is the independent of trade shops. They have a certain advantage, and that is they present the wines, they present the region, they present the history of the wine, they describe the wine, but it's some kind of hand-selling method, which is limited as selling, of course, but could be very, very helpful to introduce the wines to some elite consumers. Example of these trade shops is like the Sampler Wine Merchants, who has 3 or 4 branches. Hedonism Wine, one of the best wine shops in the world, I would say, and then handfuls. Coming to the third slide, I will talk about the labels. It is important the label look modern, whilst retaining a sense of place and a sense that we have the Franco-Lebanese style. Here you can see two labels. It's not a publicity, but it's a fact. It happens like that. We have a white wine that is the Mulwah, that has the calligraphy, Arabic calligraphy, and the other one, Clos Saint Alphonse, for the Marks and Spencer, that has an Arabic style in it. And I could tell you this had a lot of success. I'm not talking about the wine only, I'm talking about the label. It has really a nice success. So another idea to share also. Tasting is very, very, very important to introduce the wine. So keep up regular tasting events for the trade because of their influence in what is sold in these outlets. Wherever we have a new vintage, a new grape variety, a new blend, a new product, we have to push for a tasting and then present these wine and keep on the word on the trade talking about the winery. So again, tasting is with the trade is very, very important with the distributor as well as the trade. Another possibility also is the wine fairs that could be very rewarding, like the London Wine Fair, the Imbibe, the Wine Gang, the Festival of Wine with Tom Canavan, who does it in different cities in the UK. And a third possibility is the roadshow. We have witnessed a very nice success when we used to make the roadshow with the importer as well as with Mrs. Waters, when we had the association that we did in order to promote the Lebanese wine. So roadshow wine tasting in major cities like Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds, Edinburgh. This could be very interesting, but the only problem is that if you do not have your wines in these wine shops, this might be a bit expensive to spread the word about the wines, but if it's not present, it won't be very effective. Some words about the press. It's very useful, but often the results are very hardly quantifiable, if not quantifiable. But if you have, let's say, a respected wine journalist, or very respectful, but let's take, for instance, Jancis Robinson, if she reviews a wine positively, that could help reinforce the quality credential to other people in the trade. And the curiosity will push the consumer to try these wines, and if they like it, they could adopt it, and this could drive sales. Just some words about the newspaper, the written newspapers. I think the influence of the newspaper journalists is starting to diminish. This is my opinion. But of course, they can help when they recommend a wine, and this wine is listed in an outlet, and they mention this outlet, this could drive sales for sure. What I find very, very important also, the inner communication between the trade, meaning this could help raise the profile of a country, the profile of a winery, and therefore get more people to list the wines in their wine shop and restaurants. Where does this happen? Most of the time I see them in during the annual portfolio tasting or during wine fair. So they visit each other, the trade, and then they taste the wine, and then they test it, and then they talk about it, and they mention it. We arrive to a very important issue, that is the price. If we want to go in the mainstream retail, meaning mainstream retail, I'm talking about Waitrose, about the Whole Food, about these big supermarkets, the selling retail price has to be between 10 and 12 pounds. You know, it's very hard. And when I say 10 to 12 pounds, I'm talking about FOB price from Beirut $4 to $5, not more than this. So it's not easy to achieve this. But if you're willing to go into this segment, this is the best way to sell and to sell a lot. This is the maximum consumers are willing to pay for wines they are less familiar with. Not the last, before the last slide is the style of wine. We have to adapt the style of wine. I can give the example of Argentina and Australia, who adapted their wine styles to the taste of the English consumer, meaning they started picking their grapes a little bit earlier and use less oak in their premium wines. And this to allow the grapes and the terroir to show maximum expression. And I think this is really worth looking at and thinking of it. I can tell you that Argentina have a growing success after adopting this style. And of course, Rupert can confirm or confirm this, I don't know. My last slide, because we were supposed to talk about the Arak. I think the Arak is rather difficult for the Arak to compete as a flavored spirit with any seed. And this is not a taste appreciated by everybody, I think so. It is mainly appreciated by the Lebanese diaspora, of course, and the Lebanese, the Middle Eastern diaspora. It could sell, but to limited quantity if used in cocktails, meaning we use it in Lebanon, in bars, and it has really very nice success, and that is the Arak with the cranberry juice. It has a lot of success in the Lebanese bars. Well, that's it. That's my my presentation. Thank you very much.
Ili, thank you. That's very useful. That's very useful groundwork that you've laid, and I'm sure that Rupert will add a few more layers on top of that. Will you remind me, Ili, at the end of this session, to come back to the subject of Arak, because I have some views that appear to be different to yours, and I actually think that there's a lot more that we can achieve, a lot more success.
I hope
there.
so.
But let's stay with wine for the time being, and it gives me great pleasure to offer the floor to Rupert Berkman and to hear his thoughts and opinions on the challenges and opportunities for Lebanese wine producers in the UK and Lebanon as a wine producing country in the consciousness of the UK consumer and the UK trade. Rupert.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. It's a real privilege to be here. Hello to all the viewers. Thank you very much for watching. Your Excellency, it's a privilege to be included. Ralph, thank you very much. And Ellie, as ever, it's very nice to see you and to talk. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I just can pick up and elaborate a little bit from a distributor's perspective on some of the points that Ellie has discussed about wine and the challenges of being in the UK market and the areas that one has to focus on. So just to give a quick broad view, I have not got pictures to send you, but I will send all these details to the embassy. So if you wish to have statistics for the wine trade in the UK, Ralph will be able to potentially provide them to you. So just to give you a quickly overview, the UK imports about 7 million hectolitres of wine at a value of 5.5 billion. Those were the figures for 2019. Now, in 2019, and it's been something that's been happening for years, wine has been in decline. So in 2019, we've seen a reduction of 2% in volume and 1% increase in value. So the value is really more down to the duty than it is to the price of wine going up. In 2020, there's been a slight change. Because of the pandemic and the change in consumption and an increase of drinking at home, we've seen an increase of wine from the 7 million hectoliters to 7.46 million hectoliters, and with a value increase of 8%. So what's been happening this year is in the UK market, which is predominantly 85% off trade, so supermarkets and shops, as Ellie outlined in his presentation, and the balance being the on-trade. This year, as you can imagine, there's been no on-trade. But what's happened is consumption at home has boosted sales to a record amount. Now, it sounds like good news. Sadly, it's not that great news. And the reason for it is because the majority of the wines that have been sold from supermarkets and independents is, well, supermarkets. And the problem with supermarkets and the big distributors, or we call them the grocers, is that listings are far and few between. Most of the products that they have are based around brands, known regions. There is an appetite sometimes, depending on the buyer, for innovation and for representing new countries. But the reality remains that the biggest volume of sales are regions that are well known and that are especially competitive in price. So Ellie was talking about the price point for Lebanon of 10 to 12 pounds, which is right when we compare it to your production costs. But if you go back and look at the UK market, the average price of wine in 2019 was £5.91, and in this year is £6.22 on the supermarket. It's the average price. I can give you spirits as well, which would be, I don't know, Michael, if you want me to talk about spirits or if you'd like to come back to that. We'll come back to it. So, okay. All right, so I'll stick to wines. So to give you an idea, when we talk about this year, £6.22, an average shelf price, working it backwards with the VAT, with the margin from the supermarket, you're talking of a wine around £1.15, or would we say €1.35? Now, that doesn't mean to say there is an opportunity, because there's different brackets. And I will share that with Ralph, which he can pass on to you, which will show that there is a growth of wines beyond £7 and beyond £8. So there are opportunities. However, the market is still very tough, and the big volumes are shared in the hands of a few supermarkets and grocers. So that's a bit the situation. Now, when you look at a pound at the price of £6.22, you must not forget that out of that, you have £2.23 of duty. So that makes up for over 30% of the cost of the product. So it's a market that's competitive on price, but there is a huge barrier to be able to compete at that price because of the duty that's imposed. So talking about the market challenges. So that's just a little outline of what the market is like. I'll go back into more detail about the opportunities in the forthcoming year. Ralph did mention that we're talking about the hurdles, the challenges, and where are the opportunities. So I'll get back to that in a moment. To give you an idea of you've heard from Ellie, his vision, you're hearing from myself, a distributor and agency house. So to give you a bit of an idea, Ellie outlined a few of the challenges, but I will give you a little bit more insight from my side of where the challenges are for any wine producer from any region around the world and from a distributor's point of view, so myself. So the first point, the market is crowded. The UK market as a wine market was in decline, as I stated. It's up because of the pandemic, but it's crowded and remains crowded. There is such a huge level of wines, an extension of wines, that the consumer himself is lost. We have this assumption that the UK market is a very knowledgeable wine market. That's no doubt. We have some great critics. We have some great professionals. We have trade bodies that are really the world leading. But the average consumer's knowledge of wine is nowhere near to what we as people in wine believe. And therefore, the message to consumers, and I will come back to this as well, again, has to be very clear and very simple. At the moment, there's wines from all sorts of countries that are trying to get a foothold in the UK. So I look at Lebanon with production of around 8.5 million bottles, which is a fraction. I think it's 0.1% of what France produces. So you look at it, and yet countries like France have problems establishing regions. You look at countries like Turkey that try and sell to the UK, Slovenia. I was offered last week wines from Poland. So it's a crowded market where everybody wants to be because it's a lighthouse market. It's where brands get established, as well as in the American market. But everybody wants to be here, which makes it doubly competitive because everyone's here and willing to cut their margins to be able to establish a product or a brand. So difficulties, I mentioned countries like Turkey, huge body, huge production. Production is 70 million bottles, so not quite 10 times your production. And yet they can hit price points that Lebanon cannot hit. Yet they cannot get a foothold or a broad understanding from the consumer. So those are some of the challenges you have in the market. The other challenges is I go back to the consumer, understanding all these wines. We look at successes in the UK, and those are far and few between in the wine world. We look at Argentina as an example. It was mentioned. Argentina is a market that was in the UK for 30, 40 years. We taken on board one of the oldest agencies called Norton, and the brand found difficult to find its feet in. It came into the market at a low price point and established itself as a competition to Spain and France on the low end. But that doesn't last. Exchange rates, challenges, whatnot. They reinvented themselves over time, and they managed to focus on their terroir. And when we look at Argentinian wines today, everyone, and I don't know if it's the same in Lebanon, but certainly in the UK, in Europe and America, when we think of Argentina, we think of pretty much one grape variety. We think of Malbec. And that is what's driven the volume for Argentina. I don't just sell Malbec. I sell Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc. There's a huge raft. But what they managed to create, Argentina, is an idea of a quality, value for money, no use or very, very small uses of pesticide, and being sort of on the organic tip because they're in the mountains and they don't have no need for it. And they managed to pick one grape variety which they could make their own. That's a big ask. New Zealand's done the same with Sauvignon Blanc. There's Sauvignon Blanc all over the world, but New Zealand has managed to make it their own. And what they did even more so is they managed to sell it more expensive than Sauvignon Blancs in the rest of the world. So I'm not saying that there's a solution for Lebanon here. I'm just saying it's food for thought. The consumer has only such a wide attention span, and you have to be able to have a clear message that they can graft and attach themselves to. So those are the challenges for any wine producing country and any producer in England. Share of voice. For distributors like us, to give you an idea, we work in an exceedingly competitive market. The average wine merchant in the UK makes 1% profit. 1% profit, most banks would laugh you out and wouldn't work with you at that stage. So what does that mean? That means that the wine market the wine distributor has very little resource to pioneer and push a region. So I'm sure, Ellie, you please feel free to come in, but I mean, our relationship started recently, and we've started, unfortunately, a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic. So I think our successes are yet to be had. But I think we have a very like-minded approach. I think one of the things that made Ellie work with us and us work with Ellie is we both have a focus on quality. We both have a focus on terroir. And this is really what drove us to see the opportunity. Now, Chateau Cassara is sold in regions in the UK, very pocketed to Lebanese. It goes outside that thing. But where we're going to work is we're working to bring it to a broader market. Now, this partnership is because we have the same philosophy, same vision. You're not going to find, and we're the same as any other distributor. There's some fantastic guys out there, but it's about finding a like-minded distributor who understands the quality of the product that you have, who has a message that they can convey and that they can build. So I think there is a lot of challenges, but whatever said, finding a good distributor is not enough. And this is where it works. You know, Michael explained, Eli is known the world entire and in the UK as well. And when he comes in market, people will welcome him on board. He will drive the brand. He will work in partnership with us. So you need to make an effort yourselves. If you're producers and you want to find a distributor, it's not the Holy Grail. Getting a distributor in the UK is an opportunity to a sale. You have to put the time, the work in. Now, the work doesn't just start with being in market. The work starts in the vineyard. And I'm not here to talk to you about winemaking. But one thing I can tell you from a distributor's point of view, and from a company that does often build brands, or historically has, is the first thing is you have to be, in a tight world like this, you have to be a quality producer. Now, what does that mean, quality? Well, it has to be a wine that stands out. A wine, not even that stands out, that can be comparable to the rest of the market. When you take wines from Italy, France, anywhere in the world, everybody's making wines. China makes wines. You have to have not just, first of all, you have to be, the wine has to match up to good quality of wines. But then we go further, you have to have a point of differentiation, which we'll come back to. But I think it's very important, and Cassara is one of the producers that has a consistency. And I think one of the most important things for success and the efforts you need to make, I say it starts in the vineyard. To get your wines, most of it happens in the vineyard, then obviously in the winery. Now, if you don't have those two sorted, you can do all the commercial you want, but the success will not be there. So I implore you, and this is a message that's maybe, I would say possibly, maybe not my position to say, but certainly something I want to convey, is one needs to work together. There is nothing more important than sharing of best practices. So you have 50 odd wineries, you have starting off, you have numerous wineries in Lebanon. You are small compared to a lot of markets, which is an advantage because you can communicate, work and talk together. And it's not, obviously, this may be wishful thinking, but you know, I believe that when you have somebody who makes great wines, who are internationally recognized, who suit the UK market, some of the wines suit the US market, I would implore you as winemakers to make great wines, to reach out and talk to the ones who are finding it more difficult, those who are getting pushed back because they cannot be on a level playing field. I implore you, the winemakers, who make wines and can't seem to get the successes you want, to speak to the ones who are successful, to talk to them, to get knowledge. There's no shame in improving what we do. And all this kind of collaborative work helps both parties. As we say, when we teach, we are learning as well. So for me, that's the starting point. The second point is be focused. Be focused on what you want to achieve in the market. Have a vision. Again, communicate as a unity. I think you have a fantastic success in the past with Michael, who has been a real protagonist in Lebanese wines. And I have to say, I applaud Michael, Karen, for doing what he's done. And I looked at the statistics and I saw a huge peak in 2012, 2013, because there was a united voice. And Michael, with the help of a PR company and some initiatives, increased the import of Lebanese wine by 33%. Great result, because normally strategies like that don't give results for another few years. So the one thing you mustn't forget in all your endeavors is you must not think short term. We overestimate what we achieve in 1 year. We underestimate what we can achieve in 5. So if I implore you on the production side, work together, communicate, be honest. Pride is irrelevant. It's about success and improving your products. 2, speak together, speak to each other about commercial, how to sell in the market. And furthermore, with the UVL and Wines of Lebanon, I would say a united approach and focus led by professionals and experts like Michael who understand markets in the UK. And I'm sure you have people in the market in America to drive a common message. Because I go back to it, you know, Ellie said, how are our wines perceived, Lebanese wines perceived? They're well perceived. Yes, they are, but by very few people. Most people don't even know that Lebanon produces wines, which is such a shame. We're going to go away from this wartime, difficult situation and labeling, because charity only goes so far. From my perspective as a wine merchant, what fascinates me with Lebanon, what entices me, what makes me want to open a bottle is your heritage, your history. You know, you are one of the oldest wine producing regions in the world, and you have to capitalize on that. You have to differentiate yourself. Talk about your heritage, talk about your history. And as well, look at your opportunities. Because let's be honest, Cabernet Sauvignon, fantastic. I'm sure you make some great Cabernet Sauvignons. You in fact do. But it's Cabernet Sauvignon all over the world. What I see an opportunity for your indigenous grape varieties, your 2 whites. I see an opportunity for Mediterranean wines. You have old vine Grenache, you've got old vines there. This is where the investment should go. This is where the thought in the long term. Of course, I'm not asking, and I'm certainly not advocating to rip up your Cabernet Sauvignon and plant something else. I'm just saying, think about where you want to be and where you want to go. And I think personally that with a more coordinated approach and focused approach, you have a very bright future. But the one thing I'm going to tell you is if you expect immediate returns, you're fooling yourself. You're going to have to put the effort and the work into it. Now, on the last point is places in the market to sell, which is part of a strategic or tactics. We talked about supermarkets briefly, Ellie mentioned it. I would like to just tell you that the market today in the UK is 90%, 99% off trade because the on-trade doesn't exist. What I would suggest, and this is just a tactics, is to consider the independent sector. The brands get built in shops and restaurants. Supermarkets don't build your brands. Supermarket exploit your brands in the wines. And when you're strong enough, you can exploit them. I distribute a brand called Whispering Angel in the UK. We've achieved we're hitting 660,000 bottles next year, the second after the entire America. And I'm not an agent, I'm not the agency. But the reason is because we put it in the right place, in all the restaurants, all the shops. And then the supermarkets knock on our door and want the wines. So again, it's about thinking medium to long term. Okay, that's me. I don't know, Michael, if that's given a little perception of the UK market, and if there is any more insight that may be required.
Well, I think Rupert, that was a wonderful analysis and battle cry and rallying cry to the Lebanese wine producers. You explained what the pitfalls were, but also you said that the opportunities were very much there. And I think the big takeaway for me from that was the average spend of £6.22, I think you said, and the entry level Lebanese wine is not going to be under a tenner. So we're asking consumers to spend double the average spend for the entry level Lebanese wine. Our battlefield, if you want, is between £10 and say £25. And so to do that with no real recognition among consumers, with no real grape that we can call our own, that consumers can identify with no images that consumers can conjure up in their head because they still don't know Lebanon as a wine producing country. And by God, the images are there. We've got Baalbek, we've got the mountains, we've got amazing images to play with. And unfortunately, all the images most people have of Lebanon is negative images and with no real identity. So I think the big takeaway for me was, as you touched on at the end, we need to build the country before the brand. And you said before the brands, and yesterday you gave the example of Chile, I think, when we were talking, and you said consumers will know that Chile makes wine and consumers will know what grapes are associated with Chile, but they won't necessarily know the producers. And that's not such a bad thing because Chile is there, Chile is the brand, Lebanon needs to be the brand. And thank you for the kind words that you said about the Wines of Lebanon campaign. I believe, I'm going to go out to a limb here and say, I believe it was, you know, as you say, it ended too soon. Generic is the only way forward. There is some government funding now. I think the UVL needs to take hold of those funds and to spend it as they see fit in a focused and a strategic way, and not just in a piecemeal way. And as I said, as you've said, the future, global pandemics aside, is rosy.
Thank you. No, I completely agree. As I think you're spot on. If I just to build on that, and I'm sorry we overrun slightly, haven't we? But I completely in like with you. Just one thing I wanted to say regarding brands. There's nothing wrong with brands being built. There's nothing wrong with a brand shining out from Lebanon. But I think that this is down to one individual. I think it's a collective that needs to happen, very much as you reiterated. But brands do help. Brands do help. You know, if someone stands out, Kasara as well. So I think the only thing I'm trying to implore is not to feel sore if someone's having more limelight than another brand, because brands like Kasara, Musa in the past, today the message is wrong, I perceive, but that can help create something. But I think you need the both strategies. Is as brands, if one takes more shine than another, it's not negative, as long as the rest of the body is moving forward, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Ellie, would you like to add something?
Yes, I would like to add that after Rupert's introduction, we know that we are in good hands and we know that we have made the good choice. And the move from one company to the other, this is what we need, the fighting spirit, and to work hand in hand with Beckman, and we know that we will arrive to really great brand building and then great results on the market. Thank you for your passion that you showed, Rupert.
No, not thank you. Thank you. Well, we're the ones who are lucky, you see. Partnership is what works. So, no, very excited. So I just yeah, absolutely. And just to reiterate, there's opportunities. There really is. But look at niche distribution in the UK. All people out there, look at niche distribution. Don't get the starry-eyed with a big distribution, because, you know, I deal with them because I have to, in the nicest way possible.
If I could just end with that word, if I could end with the word niche, I promised that I would come back to discussing Arak, and there are on the surface a lot of potential obstacles to Arak succeeding in the international market. It was Eli mentioned two of them was price, because Arak comes in at, I think, at 55% ABV, and I think that sends it into a higher price point, and the taste profile, which is aniseed, and which I think a lot of people in the UK in particular have a kind of aversion to aniseed that's based upon teenage holidays in the Mediterranean, too much ouzo. But I think that with the backstory of arak being one, if not the first spirit to be invented, and it's the mother and grandfather and grandmother of all the great Mediterranean basin eau de vies. With that story, and with the fact that it is the essential accompaniment to Lebanese cuisine, which is very popular and very accessible, I say to anyone among the arak producers who are listening today, the Arak Producers Association listening today, the challenge that I have always thought, and I would love your feedback on this in the future, is if the Japanese have pushed sake on the back of sushi, and people say, tonight, we're going to go and eat sushi and have some sake, why can't we aim for the day when people say, we're going to go and eat Lebanese tonight and wash it down with some arak? You need to market arak alongside Lebanese food because it is the traditional accompaniment to Lebanese food, because the aniseed cleans the palate between each of the various meze courses. And that is the gauntlet that needs to be thrown down. You need to build arak's global reputation on the back of the food. Easier said than done, perhaps, but I think it's a challenge worth exploring. Eli, I don't know what you feel about that.
Well, when you present it like this, I'm sure this is a very good way to present it. I agree with you. This was the thought that I haven't thought of. This is what we need to do. The example of sake and the sushi is great. And then, as you said, the Lebanese cuisine is now more and more appreciated, more and more in demand. I think it's number 5 cuisine in UK. I've read it somewhere, or number 6. So this could be a great opportunity to push this along with the arak. Thank you for the idea. It was a great idea, Mike. Really.
Can I add one build, just one quick build on the arak, which I think, again, thank you very much, Ellie. Thank you very much, Michael. I think it's very interesting. I'm coming as obviously I'm a wine merchant, but I have a small company which has a rather naughty name called Spirit Cartel, and represents Four Roses bourbon. We were the people who launched Monkey 47 in the UK. So we have a little experience in spirits. The only thing I would say is a dual strategy is not bad. I think that strategy is fantastic. But the other thing I would think as well, this is just on the back of my mind, and Michael, please feel free to shoot me down. Maybe as well considering cocktail bars and that generation. And in order to get that brand or the product, that category there to be seen, you have to create a cocktail. You have to make a cocktail. I look at Bacardi's success over the years. It was Bacardi, the original mojito. That's what came up. When we drink Jack Daniels, it's Jack Daniels and Coke. It's always a drink. So something and something. So I would suggest, and I'm not a drinker of arak. I apologize. I've grew up in England, and my taste for aniseed is not followed. I'm not like the French, not like Pernod Ricard, you see. I think the English despise aniseed just to despite the French, just to upset the French with their Pernod Ricard. But what I was going to say is potentially looking at a cocktail, something simple, easy, 3 ingredients, some people can do at home, a drink that's not complicated, not with 15 things, because consumers will buy 3 things. They'll buy the alcohol, they'll buy the mixer, and they'll buy ice. They're not going to go for a 4th product. So if you can find a way for arak to be, presented, or a drink that could be a success. And then the last point I would leave is with packaging. The spirit world is all about imagery, packaging. What do you look like? And please, heritage, and it's very important. We've got a generation today, the Z generation, that look at the provenance. Millennials wanted to know that the brand is real. The Generation Z, they will check if your brand is real. That's the difference. So what I suggest, and I can just advocate, is use your heritage, but present it in a modern fashin for those young generations. So my thoughts from Spirit Cartel.
Rupert, you should try the arak with the cranberry.
With
the cranberry. With the
cranberry.
Juice.
Oh,
yeah,
well, there you go.
Please try it. This is very, very famous in Beirut bars now. So,
fantastic. Well, let me see. I'm 2 steps behind.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ralph, I think we've probably gorged on the time that was available to us. Before I hand back, I just want to thank everyone again, Your Excellency for hosting this, Berytech, Ralph, of course, for his patience and excellent timekeeping, and thank you, Ellie and Rupert. I'm handing back.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you, Rupert. Thank you, Ellie. We really appreciated this session. I believe that we have tapped on many subjects. Winemaking is an art in itself. Trying to also push the product and market the product is another form, as another art form. Rupert has explained to us what it's like to be in the UK market. Niche markets is basically the recommendation, looking at branding specific aspects of your wine. Arak has potential. We didn't tap on the gin side. We do have a few gin makers. I believe we did cover that yesterday during our offline session. This could be an opportunity as well if we are to look at it as a niche product rather than just another item on the shelf of the supermarkets. So yes, specialized products, if I may say, could find their way into a broad UK market. We will keep definitely converging all of the questions to you here in the UK. We proud ourselves with the 50 winemakers and more than 50 who are struggling and making it big, if not in the UK, elsewhere. We are also including those who are venturing into other spirit making, and we are here to support them as an embassy and also as a association, which we are also planning to launch now after the session. Thank you, Rupert. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Eli. And basically, this leaves me with some material to put. Are there any questions before? I suggest we create an advisory board for the UK that can meet quarterly. Yes, indeed, Mr. Atif, this is what we are doing right away right now, is to launch the Lebanese Food and Beverage Association in the UK, which will act as a basically an entity or a association that will bring aboard all the main players in the food and beverage market here in the UK. Any questions, any kind of issues, any concerns from the importers and the exporters, we can put them together in an agenda and address them as an association. So if I may, and if there are no further questions, organic extra virgin, okay, that's off topic right now. All right. Thank you again, Rupert. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Eli.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If His Excellency would permit, I would like to move ahead with the presentation. Okay. It is high time that we put together a entity which will help our fellow exporters have a soft landing here in the UK. The Lebanese Food and Beverage Association in the UK idea came after we have conversed and spoke with our existing and well-established players here in the UK market. These players have agreed that being united on the front of the food and beverage market will give us a little bit of an edge to tackle some of the most pertinent questions when it comes to trading between Lebanon and the UK and the food and beverage industry. It is basically a club, if I may say, and it will help us encompass all the importers, distributors, sellers, industrialists, manufacturers, and restaurant owners here. Members are trading in the food and beverage products imported from Lebanon, and members are producers and manufacturers here also in the UK. Some of us don't know, but we have very well-renowned and recognized industrialist manufacturers who have their own businesses here since some time back. They are well-established. They have access to markets and retailers as big as Waitroses and Sainsbury's and others. And these will basically take part in our association. Lebanese and non-Lebanese can take part in this. Hence, my invitation to Rupert to come in and also be part of this conglomeration of people in the food and beverage or food and drinks market. The purpose and 3 points is to increase the imports of food and beverage products from Lebanon to the UK, discuss ways of promoting Lebanese food and beverage products in the UK, and enhance the food and beverage made in Lebanon brand equity here in the UK. To do that, there is some level of granularity and effort we need to put into place. We will agree on the agendas as we move forward. The potential is there. We spoke about the food potential, export potential. We spoke about the processed and preserved foods, the vegetables, the beverage market, and else. There is a great deal of work to be done. And if we work in unison, we will be able to achieve and close those trade gaps easily. Basically, in a nutshell, we're looking at an immediate around 7 million, if I may say, achievable export potential in the food and beverage industry. This is just to be up to par with what we're missing out. These are opportunities that we need to grasp quickly. And please reach out on my email. I'm available. I will make sure that this is something that we will keep working on. His Excellency, if you may conclude on this webinar, we are within the times, and thank you all for making this a successful, interactive, and dynamic session.
Thank you, Ralph. I think it was a fruitful day or midday. We have much to take away from the proceedings of this webinar. As I said this morning, the potential for the Lebanese F&B sector is there. We can feel it through our work in the UK. What remains is to follow it through, and this is what we are determined to do. Again, as I said, and Ralph reiterated, that this is only a first edition of what we hope will be a series of events to highlight and flash the potential which exists for Lebanon in the UK. I urge you all not to hesitate to reach out to us. I know there are many uncertainties and some gray areas that we need to work jointly together in order to shed light on them. We would be ready to convey all your requests or demand and seek clarification at with the British authorities. It is this particular sector, which is the F&B, is a vehicle for a very proud and deeply rooted Lebanese tradition and culture. So the brand is there. Now what remains is to make it a successful business model. And that's what we are determined together to achieve, hopefully in the near future. Obviously, Lebanon is facing tremendous economic and financial challenges, but one of the remedy tracks for these challenges is to promote our export potential. And I think F&B, Lebanese F&B sector could be at the forefront of this new impetus towards rethinking the Lebanese business model in the future. Again, thank you all. It was very informative to me, and I'm sure our participants benefited from the proceedings. And as I said, this is only a start. And I cannot emphasize enough how much it is important to keep in touch and that you keep on reaching out to us in whatever you might need. Thank you again, Ralph. Thank you for our partners, Berytech and QOOT. Thank you for our panelists and our speakers. You enlightened the discussion, and hope to see you physically soon. And keep safe all, and thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you all.
Thank you, Excellency.
And I hope to see you very soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph.
Bye for now. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.